Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Market Open. It is Thursday, January 15th. Thank you, everybody, for being here. We are live once again, another day on planet Earth, which we all get to embrace. All got to be grateful for embracing another day on planet Earth. And we got a lot to talk about. TSMC earnings, they crushed it. When I mean crushed it, I mean they crushed it. And we have a really good pre-market, I think, quite frankly, because of TSMC. So we'll go through their numbers. We'll talk about what's going on with TSM. And the broader AI ecosystem and cycle does not look like it's slowing down based on those numbers. NVIDIA's up in the pre-markets, AMD's up in the pre-markets. So we will talk a lot about what we saw from TSMC. On top of that, we have jobless claims, way better than expected. The street thought we would have negative 215,000, aka 215,000 people in the United States of America applying for unemployment. We had 198,000. It fell by 9,000. So once again, the labor market, although it's not perfect, and AI is probably going to have an impact on the labor market broadly over the next decade, we're just not seeing recessionary levels of jobs claims. I mean, those numbers are not popping up. So whatever cracks the bull market, I think, is going to have to come from something else, because it's not coming from the labor market or from recession fears. But that also means we're likely not getting the rate cut because the labor market is running a little hot. The probabilities now for a January rate cut are still at 5%. That January FOMC meeting is February 28th. Most likely not going to get that rate cut. So we got a lot to talk about. TSM, jobless claims. I think the first thing that we'll get into, which is everything that you guys are saying already in the chat. Again, good morning to everybody. Is indeed Tom Lee's BMNR that has made a new strategic investment. I literally saw this news 20 minutes ago. I don't fully know if I love it or hate it, to be honest, but Mr. Tom Lee has invested $200 million into Mr. Beast, specifically Beast Industries. Tom Lee writes, Mr. Beast and Beast Industries, in our view, is the leading content creator of our generation with a reach and engagement unmatched with Gen Z, Gen Alpha, and Millennials. Beast Industries is the largest and most innovative creator-based platform in the world, and our corporate and personal values are strongly aligned. And then the CEO of Beast Industries says, we are excited to welcome Tom Lee and Bitmine as new investors in Beast Industries. Their support is strong validation of our vision, strategy, and growth trajectory as it provides additional capital to achieve our goal to become the most impactful entertainment brand in the world. Mr. Beast was talking about opening a bank a couple months ago. And one could argue, you know, they're not going to go the traditional route of opening a bank charter, but rather would be some type of decentralized finance, DeFi type of ecosystem in order to open a bank, which would be some type of crypto ecosystem. I don't know. Let's hear Tom Lee himself and see how he explains this.
Good morning, Joe. There's a lot of strategic rationale to this move made by Bitmine. As you know, Bitmine is the largest Ethereum treasury company in the world, the largest holder of Ethereum. And it's our view that Ethereum, which is a smart contract platform, is the future of finance, where digitalization of not only dollars, but stocks and equities is going to take place. And over time, that really blurs what is a service versus what's digital money. And that's where a collaboration and investment into Beast Industries makes sense. As you know, Mr. Beast is the #1 content creator in the world. His content is watched more than, for each of his videos, 252 million views a month, which is more than the Super Bowl. And really, he is probably the iconic person for Gen Z, Gen Alpha, and arguably Millennials. So he is probably one of the most important creators in the world. Beast Industries, according to Jeff Hausenbold, is planning to create a future platform of services, which includes digital items and even financial services. And that's really where a collaboration between Beast Industries and Bitmine will make sense. So I think it's part of this sort of evolution of digital platforms and money. And I think it's really uniting the #1 creator in the world with the biggest Ethereum platform in the world.
Kind of getting it. Is there a reason that you like?
Almost 70% of all tokenized assets are taking place on Ethereum. And Ethereum is extremely resilient. It's had 100% uptime since inception. The only blockchain to smart contract platform to have never gone down.
Right. But I guess there are differences, and each has its, people that think that there are certain features about Solana that are better, people that think that there are certain, and it gets very arcane, and we get down into a rabbit hole. So what would the future look like for the digital tokens that Mr. Beast that would be traveling across the Ethereum network? What are we talking about? Just describe it and how it would work.
Well, I think it's really going to be up to what Beast Industry unveils. So, I think if I was to imagine things that'll happen, number one, we know that stable coins.
I just put a poll in the chat. Let me know what you guys think. Bullish or bearish on $200 million going into Mr. Beast? I mean, theoretically, that $200 million could have gone into Ethereum, right? Now, obviously, BM&R has a ton of Ethereum, and they're trying to diversify. I think they're also doing this on their investor day because they're trying to show that they're not just a proxy towards Ethereum. They're more of like a intrinsic crypto company that's going to be doing a variety of things inside of the Ethereum network. Do I trust Mr. Beast to build a really strong application / DeFi company on top of Ethereum? Not really. That's just my gut reaction. Like, I don't know what he knows about crypto, and quite frankly, when every celebrity gets involved in crypto, it's a rug pull. So I don't know, dude. I mean, like Bitmine investing in chocolate, which is part of Beast Industries, like it is pretty confusing, and I feel like there's got to be something deeper that they know that they're working on. But on the top line sort of headline, it does feel very confusing.
Have become increasingly mainstream. It is really the breakout product of 2025. And we also know that Wall Street firms like BlackRock and Robinhood want to tokenize almost everything from stocks to credit to real estate, and eventually things like intellectual property and even loyalty points. I imagine that those are the kind of products that could be emerging on any future services platform. And that's where it's going to be a natural fit between a company like Bitmine and what Beast Industries does. But from Bitmine's perspective, Beast Industries, is a very unique company. I mean, for us, I think as just an investment and, being part of the cap table where there are some really high quality venture capitalists and other investors represents a good investment opportunity for us, or what we call a moonshot.
All right. That's what you got with Tom Lee and Mr. Beast. Look, if I had a chance to privately invest into Beast Industries, I would do it because it's like, hey, this guy has all the attention in the world. They're probably going to do something with the money versus giving it to some startup that probably has no attention, no distribution, yada, yada. And I would take that investment. Tom Lee runs an Ethereum treasury, though. And the capital that's coming from that Ethereum treasury is essentially coming from you and me, given he's diluting shareholders to be able to raise money to then the purpose of it is to buy Ethereum. So I think it's when he mentions, there's all these venture capitalists involved. It's like, yeah, if you're a venture capitalist, you're going to give Mr. Beast the money because it's like the dude has 500 million followers. Like he'll probably figure out some way to make money with it. If you're an ETH treasury CEO, I don't know if that's the proper allocation of capital. And the way he's talking about it, Bitcoin right there, almost 97. Bitcoin and Ethereum have been having a good past couple of days. Amcor, by the way, up 6% because of TSMC earnings, which we'll talk about. If you're an ETH treasury CEO, I think that it's a different prerogative that you have. And the way he's talking about it towards the end of that clip is like, hey, it'll be a good investment. It's like, yeah, it probably will be a good investment, but is that the reason why people chose to invest in Bitmine? Like imagine if MicroStrategy came out and Saylor was like, hey, we're going to invest in Beast Industries. It's like, no, we want you to buy more Bitcoin, right? The reason we're buying MicroStrategy is because we think you're a better proxy than Bitcoin itself to Bitcoin. And so I'm fully on board with the fact that Mr. Beast Industries is probably a decent investment in all the different private investments you can make. But is it the type of investment and the quality of investment that the investors that are subsidizing? I mean, essentially, we are the ones that now own $200 million of Mr. Beast Industries. Is that something that we want? I don't know, dude. I really like when I saw this headline this morning, my first gut reaction was like WTF more than like, oh, I'm excited. It was more like, what? It was just like, it's like a VC company. It's like the VC arm of Google Ventures or like Salesforce that are making these strategic bets, and like they have so much money to lose because they're like Google and Salesforce are like some of the biggest companies in the world. It's like whatever. If it goes to zero and if it becomes a big win, like Google when they invested in SpaceX 15 years ago, right? Like a lot of people probably thought that wouldn't work out, but now it's worked out 15 years later. But it's SpaceX. It's like it's different from chocolate. I don't know. This is a little confusing. Tom Lee versus Logan Paul at WrestleMania. Yeah, it's a little weird. I don't know. I mean, we'll see how the market reacts to it. The only reason Bitmine's up is not because of this Mr. Beast investment. It's up about 1% here at pre-markets, 4% yesterday because of Ethereum obviously going higher. That is the realistic only thing that matters for this. But I guess now the investor base is going to have to see. We've been talking about it over the past couple of weeks. A lot of the sort of excitement around Tom Lee's brand has obviously died down. And I think that's not just because of the price action of Ethereum. That's also because of the communication style of Bitmine as an actual company when it comes to their investors and constantly badgering people to like vote and all this stuff. Like people have just been a little pissed off and annoyed. I don't know if this restores a little bit of faith, changes the narrative, changes sentiment, or this just further pisses people off. But eventually we're gonna have to find out. And like the question is, does this 200 million turn into $1 billion, right? Like, can you get a 5x on this investment? Long-term, maybe if Mr. Beast really does something innovative, but it's not gonna happen through chocolate. It's not gonna happen through merchandise. It's gonna have to happen through some type of tech platform, some type of fintech platform that they mentioned in the press release with DeFi, because you just don't get the types of margins that gives you the ability to like scale a $200 million investment into $1 billion investment from chocolate. I mean, you have to sell a lot of chocolate, right? It has to be through something more special. And so maybe they're thinking of something that's just deeper. But as of now, that's the investment that they have made. All right, that's what you got from Tom Lee. They will be having the shareholder meeting today. I don't know what time it is. I know that Tanner most likely will be streaming it, even if I can't. I do have a couple meetings during the day. If it's after 1, I might be able to do it. But if not, then Tanner will probably stream it, and then we'll talk about the updates on the market close, and we'll see what Tom Lee had to say. I also think we get the results of the shareholder vote today, which is going to be important to see if they get the ability to authorize the number of shares that they want to authorize. Jobless claims. Before we get into TSMC, again, for those that just joined, jobless claims were pretty good. 198,000 versus 215,000. Again, way less than expected. It means the labor market is not in the worst situation ever. This is the lowest reading, by the way, in 2 years, which is kind of crazy. I mean, either these numbers are cooked or we are not seeing massive amounts of people filing for unemployment. The Clarity Act is not happening today. However, there's a lot of issues with the Clarity Act as per Brian Armstrong, which we'll talk about in a bit. The Clarity Act has been delayed until minimum the end of the month, if not longer than that, now that you have certain CEOs that are disagreeing with certain elements of it. But jobless claims, pretty good, 198,000. We are not near any recessionary levels. If something breaks in the economy, which forces the stock market to break, I don't think it's going to be coming from the labor market, because you're just not seeing a level of jobless claims that would necessitate the labor market showing that type of thing. So it seems like recessionary fears, at least from a jobs claim perspective, is not the worst thing in the world. A little bit of a headline. I don't know if this is fully confirmed, but ClickHouse, which is an Nebius investment, looks like they're raising at 15 billion. Huh. That would be pretty good for Nebius. Nebius did get an upgrade this morning as well. And that's why that stock is up a little bit. Again, that ClickHouse news is not confirmed, but Nebius does own, I think they own 28% of ClickHouse. Or am I wrong? Is it 15%? I think it's 28%, but they own a decent chunk of it. So if that company IPOs or just raises at a higher round, that'll be good for Nebius's book value. Nebius right there, 104.8, up 3% in the pre-markets. 28%, right? 25%? Okay. Makes sense. All right, TSMC, they crushed it. Like TSMC absolutely demolished earnings. Like really good, really freaking good earnings. And we kind of needed them to crush these earnings because obviously they are the biggest stock or the most important stock right now before we have all the other big tech earnings report. And I mean, when you look at these numbers, it's hard to not be impressed. So revenue came in at 33.7 versus 33.3. That is an increase of 25% year over year, 1.9% quarter over quarter. Gross margins at 62.3 versus 60.5. Again, it's hard on a hardware business to beat at these levels, but they are. Operating margins at 54. The prior one was at 51. Net profit was 16.3 billion. Street thought they would do 15.2. They did $900 million more of net income, money that comes straight to the bottom line, straight for shareholders in Q4. Now, what was also really important is that their CapEx was expanded to 56 billion prior from estimates of 48 billion. That means they have to spend more money because they are getting more demand. Q1 2026 guidance was 34 to 35 billion in revenue. The estimate was 33. That's either a $1 billion increase or a $2.4 billion increase on revenue. That's up 4% quarter over quarter, 38% year over year. Again, this was just a phenomenal quarter by TSMC. And you're not really seeing a lot of this stuff slow down. The CEO said AI is real, not only real, it's starting to grow in our daily life. I'm also very nervous about it. We have to invest about 52 to 56 billion in CapEx. If we didn't do it carefully, that would be a big disaster for TSMC. I spend a lot of time talking to my customer and then customers. I want to make sure demands are real. They show me the evidence. Capacity is very tight. We work very hard to narrow the gap. We are looking at 2028 or 2029. We hope the supply gap will be narrowed. He's not expecting for another couple of years for the supply gap to be narrowed when it comes to TSMC. Biggest constraint, the bottleneck, is wafer supply, which Jensen has also talked about a while ago. So, I mean, if you are doubting AI, once again, the TSMC earnings just proves that it's really hard to be doubting it. That stock's up 5% in the pre-markets, folks. 345, I believe, in the pre-markets. That is, yeah, that's hitting an all-time high. Previous all-time high was 336. We were at 335. That's up 5.4%. That's probably going to open at about $1.8 trillion market cap. Will they do a stock split? I don't think so. I think you got to get closer to around 500-ish to do a stock split. It would definitely increase the options market for TSMC and make it a lot more liquid if they did do a stock split. But who knows? Maybe if it gets like $400, that might be a company that they do a stock split on. So TSMC right there, that's up 5.4%. As you can see, that's getting a lot of momentum. Amkor, which is another company that works very heavily with TSMC, 52 Dolores, that's up 7%. Specifically, they work with the TSMC fabs in Arizona. And that was the entire thesis when we talked about it at $30. I know it fell to 48 yesterday, but here's the thing. Amkor falling 7% yesterday. It's like, okay, that's annoying. You could chalk it up to being like, okay, well, it was up 25% year to date, probably needs to take a breather. And then TSMC drops the hammer. And everyone's like, oh yeah. Like that means Amkor is going to drop a hammer in a couple of weeks when they report earnings. Doesn't mean the stock has to go up, but it definitely does mean that the fundamental story is intact, and that's why these earnings are so important. Another supplier for TSMC is ENTG. This one, Entergis. We talked about, wow, it's up 11% pre-markets. We talked about this stock in November. We didn't spend too much time on it. But ENTG, this is another TSMC supplier. Look at that, 12.3%. Also $15 billion market cap, price of sales of 4.9. That stock, there you go, up 12.3%. Is Broadcom up on this earnings as well? Yeah, even Broadcom, which has a close relationship with TSMC, that's up 2.86% as well. So you got Amkor, Broadcom, and then ENTG. We haven't talked about that stock too much, but that is another name that we briefly mentioned back in November, December as having a relationship with TSMC. That's up 12.3%. All the sort of suppliers in that ecosystem, once a company that's worth almost 2 trillion puts up numbers like this, they're all going to benefit because they're probably going to have increased demand because of their biggest supplier putting up the types of earnings that they put up. Yes, ENTJ is a personality profile. That's correct. So this is good. We needed this. We needed a good earnings. I mean, yesterday was the first red day we had of 2026, like first real red day. And even that, like if you're in Rocket Lab, it wasn't red, right? S&P actually recovered 0.5% towards the end of the day. So it wasn't that red. If you were in crypto yesterday, Bitcoin, Ethereum, it wasn't really that red. So although we've had some red yesterday for the first time, which felt a bit painful, it was not the type of red that kind of led to a mass market drawdown. And that's because I think the earnings were relatively strong today and for all the banks as well. Triple V, thank you for being here. Thank you for the $200 super chat. Appreciate you, Triple V, and thank you for being here. Thank you for being part of the channel. AEHR, yes, this is a play that Roy likes as well. Air Test Systems, is this up? Wow, this is up 5.5%. I don't know exactly what these guys do, but I know they are part of the semiconductor supply chain and ecosystem. I would imagine there is probably a correlation with TSM because TSM is the biggest supplier for these NVIDIA chips. And yeah, that'll create a bit of a pump across the board. Now, NVIDIA is the one name that has been dead all week. It's up 1.62% at 186. That's nice. This thing almost fell below 180 yesterday. So I would imagine that TSMC doing well probably would be good for NVIDIA and that they're going to crush and absolutely smash earnings as well. Hopefully that happens. But at least they're up right here in the pre-market. Yeah, there's Roy in the chat. AEHR, the reason is due to ATE market continuing to expand. TSM comments were bullish and in line with comments at Needham from 2 days ago. Well, there you go. I mean, there's a variety of ecosystems and synergies that are going to converge when the big guys put up earnings. And this is why, you know, like as much as we've been talking about high beta small caps that have been getting the majority of the rotation, AEHR, for example, under $1 billion market cap. And I think the stock is up 20% year to date. 795 million. A lot of the alpha has not been in the NVIDIA or TSMs of the world. But when those companies put up earnings, when those companies put up the numbers that just become undeniable, like NVIDIA probably will do, that TSM did today, I mean, I wonder if the small caps continue to be in favor. Not to say that they're going to get out of favor. TSM now only up about 7% year to date with the move. They were up 2% before this move. But like, it's really hard sometimes to deny that level of momentum. And sometimes, you know, that warrants a rotation back into the large caps. So I think after this earnings cycle, we'll see by around mid-February. Tesla, I believe, has earnings on January 28th, along with Microsoft and Meta. We're going to see if the large caps become back in favor. Where is Meta pre-markets? That was down a lot yesterday. Meta 618, down from about 655 early on Monday. So Meta continuing to struggle a little bit. Triple V is supporting amidst new love for medium rare stakes. I had 2 different medium rare stakes in Vegas. So yes, he is supporting my passion for it. Actually, I told you guys, right? I went to Peter Luger's in Vegas. I went to Peter Luger's in New York, which is great, but Peter Luger's in Vegas was really good. Like really freaking good. So I am now officially a medium rare guy. Silver's taking a breather. Yeah, so last night, silver took a little dippy dip, went from 93 to 87. Right now it's at 88. Took a 8% reversal as it topped out. I don't know. At this point, trying to predict silver topping out is, I think, a hard thing to do. We saw this happen last Sunday, and then it reversed right back the next day. So taking a breather, sure, that's important. But my conspiracy theory here, which I don't think is that conspiratorial, is that a lot of industries need silver. And this increasing the input cost of the price for silver into manufacturing is not a good thing. Definitely not a good thing for a lot of the semiconductor names that, you know, potentially could have their margins compressed, because not like completely compressed, but like it puts pressure on margins, right? And so is there a world where all the industries come together, the Elons of the world, and say, we got to do something about this because none of us can afford to be in business if this happens? Maybe. I think margin requirements were also increased by CME again yesterday. But the amount of demand for silver is so insatiable that I don't know if it's even going to matter. I mean, if there's more people ready to buy, then yeah, COPEX changed the margin rules again yesterday. That's why. I guess we're going to find out. I guess we're going to find out over the coming weeks. But right now, silver continues to be one of the best trades of this year. 55% of you voted no. You're not bullish on BM&R investing in Mr. Beast. So 45% said yes. 55% said no. Wow, SPY 694. Okay. SPY 500 694 up 0.54%. So there you go. You're getting everything you lost yesterday. We actually closed at 690. I mean, we know that 7,000 is on the way. We just got to see it happen. I feel like today might be that day. I mean, TSM is a hell of a catalyst, so maybe that happens. We also had bank earnings, so let's pull that up. We had some important banks, and then we'll talk about crypto, because that was also a big story yesterday in regards to what happened. Doug says, I'm exiting my BM&R position with a 30% loss because I'm so not bullish on Mr. Beast. All right. I'm sure there's some people that probably will think the same and exit their positions because of this Mr. Beast thing. but it's definitely Tom Lee going in a different direction than I think people thought. Goldman Sachs, they put up earnings beat by, wow. Hold on, where is their stock right now? I didn't even see this morning. Damn, stock's down 2%. They beat by earnings by 19%. What? Missed revenue by 3%. They put up $14 a share versus $11.70. Again, you don't see banks beating by almost 20% on earnings. That is incredible. So Morgan Stanley, hell of a job. Or sorry, Goldman Sachs. And then Morgan Stanley, 11% beat. Another double-digit beat on EPS, 268 versus 242 expected. EPS is up 20% year-over-year. Revenue's up 10% year-over-year. Revenue beat by 1%, 17.8 versus 17.75 billion. So you got two of the biggest banks having some pretty decent earnings, or at least EPS beats. And then the other one was BlackRock. BlackRock, very close to a 10% beat. They beat by 8% on EPS, 13.16 versus 12.20. Beat by 5% on revenue, 7.0 versus 6.67. EPS up 10% year-over-year. Revenue is up 23% year-over-year. So whether it's BlackRock, JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley, Goldman Sachs, Citigroup, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, I mean, all these companies put up some pretty damn good earnings. Now, not all their stocks reflected that because a lot of their stocks, given the financials had a great year in 2025, did very well. And maybe they're just running a little too hot. But, I mean, double-digit beats across the board on EPS, which is really what matters more than revenue, to show that if you're getting more efficient, improving profitability, potentially AI is increasing margins, that's a good thing. It's a really good thing. And I think that probably should be good for SoFi, right? If all these banks are beating by double digits and growing 4%, SoFi, which is going to grow 30%, probably is going to get closer to that 80 cents of EPS that analysts think might not be the easiest to achieve, maybe $1 of EPS. SoFi right there up about 0.5% in the pre-market. And maybe that's going to be good for their earnings on January 30th. Tanner says, Amit, do you like the Mr. Beast idea? I don't love it simply because I think the people who invested in BMNR didn't invest for Mr. Beast. I'm also just very, very skeptical of celebrities that get involved in crypto. And I think I deserve to be skeptical about that. All of us deserve to be skeptical about that. So he's not investing in chocolate. He's investing in something Mr. Beast is going to do via financial technology, which has to be rooted in something that's crypto oriented, because otherwise, why the hell would they invest? They're not going to invest in a traditional bank charter. So do I trust Mr. Beast and his crypto aspirations? No, not really. And I think that's okay to be skeptical of that. If it was 20 million moonshot, whatever, 200 million, like what the hell is he doing that needs $200 million? I don't know. It's a little weird. And if it's any type of consumer-oriented crypto product, I'm just skeptical because you've got a lot of consumer crypto products that are out there that are already really good. It's a competitive space. It's not easy to get people that are trading crypto or transacting in crypto within your platform. If it's some type of stable coin thing where you could buy Mr. Beast chocolate by converting to USDC or something, yes, Mr. Beast has all the distribution, but also remember his distribution are, yeah, okay, Tanner agrees with me. 200 million is crazy. His distribution is little kids. Like 11-year-olds are watching Mr. Beast videos. They don't really have any money. I don't even think they know what the hell Ethereum is. I mean, some of them do, but like, I'm giving all the bearish arguments here. I'm sure there's more bullish points, but just like my gut reaction when I saw it this morning was like, this is weird. Now, does this affect the Bitmine thesis? I mean, like the Bitmine thesis is the Ethereum thesis more than anything. So I don't think so. And if ETH is going to get a little bit of a breakout, who cares if they invested 200 million, because Bitmine's going to go higher. But it is weird, to say the least. Mr. Beast is the Snapchat of celebrity distribution. Yeah, I don't think the people watching Mr. Beast have a lot of money. It's just kids across the world. Like the people in the chat that have made some money in their life, are you spending your Saturday watching a Mr. Beast video? It's like, probably not. So whatever ads or whatever you see in Mr. Beast video, like you're probably not going to care about it because you're not going to see it. A bank for kids? I mean, maybe. So I guess we're going to see. We're going to see how this ends up playing out. I'm not saying no adults watch Mr. Beast. I'm just saying, I don't know. There's got to be something deeper here. And I don't think they explained any of the deeper points of the collaboration today other than just investing in them. And I'm sure there's a deeper plan that they have with them, but we don't know about it yet. So we'll get more clarity over the coming days. There's adults attached to the kid. Okay, maybe the parents are sitting with the kid watching the Mr. Beast video. I mean, again, I just think that's more of a minority of his users that are watching versus, if he gets 250 million views a video, I don't know, maybe 10 million are adults. I think the majority of them are more kids. So that's what we got on Mr. Beast. Salesforce, that's up a little bit. Rocket Lab had a hell of a day, dude. 9180. I mean, just an incredible. This has got to be the best stock in the stock market of 2026. This is absolutely incredible. 9180 yesterday, touched 92. It's down 2.3%. Might take a breather today. Might decide to just stop taking a breather. It really hasn't taken a breather all year. But Rocket Lab, incredible name, and that one has continued to gain momentum. Let's listen to Goolsbie, president. Let's see what he has to say about the current economic data and what he's thinking about the pace of inflation going into the end of the year.
Central banks, but those countries are Zimbabwe and Russia and Turkey and a bunch of places that you would not characterize as advanced economies. Anything that's infringing or attacking the independence of the central bank is a mess. You're going to get inflation come roaring back if you try to take away the independence of the central bank. And I told you, we're on a path back to 2% inflation. We have been for 5 years. We've made progress at some points. At some points, it's gone the wrong way. That's not been an easy road. To try to blow up Fed independence is kind of a festering stink bomb in the middle of that road back to 2%. I mean, with all due respect, Mr. President, we need to be really careful.
That's not exactly responsive. You're not arguing that the Fed should not be subject to inquiry when there's a question about the veracity of something the chair might have said in front of Congress.
I don't like I said, I'm not a lawyer. The only reason I'm not answering the legal question of should this or that be investigated, I don't know anything about that. I know that in Chair Powell's statement, I agree with his argument that if you're investigating as a pretext because you disagree with the rate decisions, that's a mess. We should not be in that place. We should be taking the job seriously of setting interest rates, which we do at the FOMC. As I've said many times, you become a sworn member of the Federal Reserve, you're out of the elections business. The minutes come out and the transcript will come out. You can see word for word what's on people's mind, and people take the job very seriously. It's all about the economic outlook and the economic conditions, and that's where it should be. The law gives the Fed the job to look at the stabilizing of prices, the maximizing employment.
All right, so Goolsbie doesn't know what's going to happen either. I mean, now that Jay Powell's being investigated, obviously things are getting a lot more political, and it's harder for these Fed presidents to comment on this stuff and talk about how this is going to end up playing out. A lot of them are just continuously saying we need to look at the data to make a decision. Goolsbie did say we don't need another rate cut for this year. He was against the previous rate cut we got in December. I would imagine a lot of other Fed presidents are going to agree with him that we probably don't need a rate cut given the jobless claims we got this morning, 198 versus 215, and then obviously GDP growth, which Atlanta Fed says is coming at 5%. I don't know if it's going to be that hot, but if it is, I mean, you probably don't need that much stimulus with a rate cut. Ethereum right there, 33.75. I was listening to a lawyer yesterday on one of the networks, and this is one of the lawyers that I believe is in charge of the case against Trump. And just listening to him, I mean, he's pretty damn confident that the Supreme Court is not going to rule in favor of Trump when it comes to the tariffs. And essentially he's saying there is constitutional authority to issue tariffs, but not with IEEPA. And as a result, like the Supreme Court is going to have no choice but to strike this down. Now, we didn't get the Supreme Court decision yesterday, and a lot of people are speculating that we're not going to get it for a long time because they know the implications it would have on the American people, the administration. It would just create too much of a issue, which means maybe we don't get it for a while. I think we're going to get it while Trump is president. I don't think it's going to take years to get it. But from a lot of lawyers, it just feels like, hey, this is not going to go through. Now, there is a world that they're taking a lot more time because there is one doctrine that he mentioned that the lawyers could be using, and it has to do with tariffs in relationship to foreign policy, that the president does have executive authority on being able to make a decision if you justify it via foreign policy to like create a foundational element to implement the tariffs, where some of the justices could say, hey, if we look at this part of the Constitution, he does have the authority to do this. And maybe the Chief Justice is trying to get a broader consensus around the 9 Supreme Court justices, or trying to convince the ones that are dissenting to look to that doctrine as the basis for why we should allow the tariffs to be legal. And so I think it's going to take time to, it's basically a national security doctrine. So I think it's going to take more time. I don't know if we get it next week, but prediction markets say there's no chance that this happens, but maybe there is. And maybe it's just going to take more time to play out. If this drags out for another 1 to 2 years, that'd be crazy. That'd be absolutely crazy. Geopolitical headlines. So you had Trump, who was talking pretty tough on Iran yesterday, and then he tweeted this, I believe, in the morning. A quote from Fox News: Iranian protester will no longer be sentenced to death after President Trump's warnings. Likewise, others. He says this is good news. Hopefully it will continue. Trump did mention yesterday that if the protesting is not met with death, which obviously we've seen a lot of evidence already that many protesters have been killed. But if it stops, then he would think twice about striking. We saw Iran's airspace yesterday get freed up, and you had a lot of you had pretty much every plane that just left the entire airspace. And so that, made a lot of people think, hey, is this actually going to happen? Like, are we going to see a strike? Didn't end up happening, which is a good thing. And potentially based on this idea that Trump thinks that the Iranians are calming down to an extent. But that was part of the headlines last night, and now we're going to have to see if that continues. This is what he said yesterday, which maybe prompted them to not make an attack.
We've been told that the killing in Iran is stopping. It's stopping. And there's no plan for executions or executions. So I've been told that a good authority. We'll find out about it.
And based on his tweet this morning, if that's confirmed, that's probably why they have not struck Iran. So, I mean, if the Iranian regime stops and that's enough for Trump to not get involved militarily, then maybe that is going to lead to less of the bear case of them actually getting involved from a military perspective. Or it's a head fake and there's going to be strikes in the next couple of days. I mean, this is a story that we're going to have to keep up with, but as of yesterday, that didn't happen. S&P 500 right there, up 0.56%. The reason you saw milk is because I texted Steve the picture of Trump holding the milk. And he was like, what is going on? He had no idea what was happening. And it is like a act that they enacted yesterday to introduce whole milk into every single kid's diet in the country, in school. Steve was like, what is going on? I was like, are you trolling me? I was like, no, it's real. Trump is on the milk train. He's on the milk train. So there you go. Whole milk is back. It's kind of crazy. When I was in high school, I'm sure a lot of people that at least went to school in the United States relate with me. They would be giving us milk and pizza for lunch, bro. It's like the weirdest lunches we would have. Like, really, the lunch in high school was just like absolutely disgusting. At least my school. I know some schools maybe had a little bit better. I went to a public school, not in the best area. And so our lunches were just like, I can't believe this is legal to serve kids. But we had free lunch, which helped. But yeah, it felt like food that kind of didn't deserve. Yeah, mini corn dogs, weird chicken nuggets. There's a lot of days I was just like, I'm skipping lunch today. I'll figure out something else later. We only had milk. Yeah, I don't know how it is in other states, but in New Jersey, it wasn't necessarily the best. It was free. Why would you think it would be good for you? Yeah, I get it. It was free, but still, there's 1,000 kids that needed to eat every day. It wasn't good, bro. And I never understood milk with like food. Like I've never been a milk guy. So I've never liked, I didn't drink the chocolate milk while I was eating a chicken nugget. Like that's disgusting in my, that's absolutely disgusting. But like a lot of kids I was like, no, I'll just take the water. Like I don't need to have milk with chicken. It always felt weird. Do you see total money market funds? Yes. Money market funds increased dramatically. Last week they increased. We'll get the new update later today after hours, but last week they increased by about 70 billion In total in Q4, it was like 120 billion that increased. We now have 7.8 trillion on the sidelines. We'll get a new update today after the bell. A lot of money on the sidelines, even with these high beta names exploding, which is kind of crazy, right? Like there's still so much money waiting to be deployed that hasn't been deployed. And maybe if we get that rate cut, that is going to happen. By the way, the AAI investor sentiment is the most bullish since November, which one could argue this is definitely more fear and greed, more greed than fear. We are in the greed part, I think, of fear and greed. We are, yeah, officially 58. We're at greed. That survey was bearish for the past 5 months. It just turned bullish, which makes sense given the rally we've seen in a lot of different names. And then on top of that, take a look at this stat. BlackRock has hit 14 trillion in assets after record inflows of 342 billion in Q4, 698 billion for the year. This was disclosed today based on their earnings. Vanguard's not too far behind at a little bit over 12 trillion. We're talking about some of the most important financial institutions on the planet that are just racking up the inflows. And then yesterday, Bitcoin ETFs collected 843 million. Last year, every month, the Bitcoin ETFs collected 10 billion of net inflows. This month, 15 days into January, we're at about $1 billion. So they've got a lot of work to do to 10x the monthly amount from where we are right now to get to that 130 billion they've collected throughout the year. But it's nice to see yesterday we finally got some money coming back into Bitcoin, and maybe that can stabilize the prices around this 96, 97,000 level, which would be very important. But you are seeing a lot more money come into the ecosystem. Derek, thank you for the super chat. Good morning, everyone. I cannot compete with Triple V. And then right after you say that, he sends 50 gifted. This freaking guy, bro. This freaking guy. Derek, appreciate you, man. 50 of you guys just got a membership 2 minutes before the market opens. Laura, you got a membership. Miguel, Shadow, Cause Why Not, Happy Blue Dolphin, Keg, JD Ashley, Craig Anderson, Dr. Crypto, Max Discipline, Alexander, Jeff Jones. Guys all got a membership. Courtesy of Mr. You know why Derek's sending these memberships? It's because that VG money is coming in. I don't even want to know how many shares he has of this shit, but he was buying this heavy in the low sixes. 792 got a breakout to 828 yesterday. Let's see if we can get back above $8. Mr. Derek Wall will be a very happy man if we can do that. Thank you, Derek. Appreciate you, brother. Thank you for the 50 gifted. For those asking, what does a gifted membership do? It doesn't do anything. We don't really charge anything for the channel. If you want to subscribe and pay $5 a month to support, you're welcome to, but there's nothing really special. Your name lights up on the screen, I guess. So it's just the support. Thank you, Derek, for that. Appreciate it. And 50 of you guys just got a gifted membership. All right, here we go. 20 seconds. 20 seconds. Let's see what we got. I think all eyes on S&P if we can reclaim 695. We're at 694.70 pre-markets. Let's see what we can do. Thank you again, everyone, for being here. It is Thursday. We're alive on planet Earth. We cannot take for granted that we're all here together across the world, alive on planet freaking Earth. Thursday, January 15th, 9:30 a.m. The stock market is now open. All right, wake your ass up. Let's get into it. S&P 500, 694.50. There you go. Let's see if we can break above 695. We are green by about 0.5%. Meta is up 0.3. NVIDIA getting some love, 186.72. This thing was almost below 180 yesterday. TSMC earnings definitely gave it some momentum, and you're getting some love. Amcor, 52.40. That fell to 48 yesterday. Touched 53 just now. Again, CSM earnings were very important. TSM, that's up 4.3%. That's at an all-time high, 1.77 trillion. Now in market cap. Nebius got an upgrade today. That's up 2.6%. Ethereum at 3,300. NVIDIA almost 187. Airtest Systems, that's up another 8% today, 28.01. SoFi trying to get back to 27. Goldman Sachs, that was red after good earnings. That's now green. That's up 1.45%. Grab got another upgrade this morning to $7. I know Grab got hit. It continues to get hit. This is why I feel like this stock is manipulated more than anything. I don't understand how it's getting constant upgrades and getting hit. personally, I feel like there's something bigger going on, and you kind of just have to pull through it. But that stock hitting new lows at 455, down 1.7%. I do think the big guys are trying to flush out retail one last time before they let this thing reverse, and that might be a visit back into the 430s, 440s. S&P 694, NVIDIA officially back to 187, MasterCard at 549, Datadog 123, ServiceNow at 135, Lennar at 121, home building stocks doing well. ASST, that's down 4%. That's weird because Bitcoin is up. So not sure why that stock's down. MicroStrategy also had a really good day. MSTR is down. All right, so some of those Bitcoin plays taking a little bit of a breather. How about VG? We are down about 2%, holding 780, but that's down. Broadcom 346. ENTG up 11%. This is another very close proximity to TSMC in terms of one of their suppliers. So that one's up 10%. Amcor is up 7.5%. Nebius is up 3%. Ethereum at 3,300. SanDisk and the memory plays, are they going off? SanDisk, wow, 6.2. I think that's because of TSMC. Those chips need HBM, baby. And that's why your Microns and your SanDisks are rolling. Micron up 3%. This was actually down yesterday, and SanDisk up 6% on the day. The Indonesian labor law changes for Grab. Again, that news was yesterday. Also, I mean, you would think the pre-markets would get affected by that. For that to take a dump as soon as the market opens after an upgrade in the pre-markets and the Indonesian laws being 24 hours old in terms of news. I mean, it's weird to say the least, but nonetheless, I think that stock is just in this situation right now, and the only thing you can do is really wait through it. But yes, those Indonesian laws theoretically could be bearish. The reason I don't think it's that bearish is because if the Indonesian laws are making it harder for companies to be able to enter the space, that means the monopoly that is there, or the pseudo-monopoly that is there, only solidifies their position. So I actually don't think it's that bearish, to be honest. I think it's bearish for a lot of the other smaller competitors that are losing cash every month. For a company like Grab that's profitable, they'll charge a little bit higher on the fees and they'll make up the difference from the consumers. So don't think it's a bear case, but nonetheless, the market is reacting like that. Broadcom right there, that's up 2%. Amcor trying to go for 53. This is why I did not sell Amcor at 50. I mean, I really don't want to sell a single share until this thing gets to 60. The re-rating seems obvious based on TSMC earnings. You just have to be patient with it. It'll be ups and downs, but a lot of these plays towards TSM or towards the AI semiconductor ecosystem should end up doing well. Nebius right there up 3%. Did Zeta get an upgrade today? Zeta 2234, that one's basically flat. I think they got an upgrade. If someone can confirm, let me know. This one fell to 2165 yesterday. Robinhood goes red, 2%. Robinhood as well. It's just not the same Robinhood that it was last year in terms of valuation. It has been stuck within a range. It's been great for covered calls, quite frankly. But outside of that, been stuck between 115 and 117. AMD did get an upgrade again this morning. Wow, 233, 4% up. The upgrade was actually an important one. It was named the top pick at Wells Fargo, 345 price target. This thing was almost 199 on Tuesday. Today is Thursday. It is now $234. So that one doing great. What about CoreWeave? How's that going? CoreWeave 95. Wow, CoreWeave. We haven't seen 100 on this in like 4 months. So that would be fun to see. Also reported that there's a CPU shortage. Yeah, and that again continues to be bullish for demand when it comes to players like AMD. Caterpillar, take a look at that. 650. 650. I mean, this stock, I think, shout out to Dougie. I know he was talking about it. I think a bunch of you guys were talking about it last year as an industrial play for data centers. This is up 60%. 73% over the past year. 73% over the past year. I mean, one could argue that the renaissance and revolution of AI turned the caterpillar into a butterfly. And you're seeing that with its stock price flying up 73% over the past year. Tesla right there, 443. That's up 1%. IWM, the small caps, getting some love. Of course, Intel's going to go to 50. Why not? Why shouldn't it? Of course. I mean, it's only right for a Jensen and Trump investment to just keep going higher every day by 2%. Like that would be unreasonable for it to not go up 2% every day. There you go. Intel, 49.79. As that goes green, it did touch 50. The quantum stocks are up as well. Visa and MasterCard getting a little bit of a rebound. Palantir trying to get back to 180. Netflix at 89.48, and then Microsoft at 461. That one was forced. That is what you call forcing. I call intellectual manifestation of metaphors that make sense off the dome on the spot. AKA it was forced, but it was good. Can't say it wasn't good, dude. That was on the spot. That was off a comment that said, look at Caterpillar, and it turned into this whole soliloquy that I had, you know. S&P 500, 694, that's up 0.5%. SoFi trying to get up to the 27s. Grab, once again, getting crushed again. Benchmark comes out this morning. Barclays comes out this morning, says, hey, we still think this thing should be $7. And it gets hit. 4 million shares traded in 6 minutes. I mean, I don't know. At this point, I really do think there's some bigger forces that are involved in this, and eventually will reverse, but it's in a position right now where it's not necessarily getting the time to reverse yet. AppLovin, are we green? That was down 9% yesterday. Not a full rebound yet. We actually touched 629 in the pre-markets. Wow, this thing is down from 629. It was almost at 599 last night. 619 right here, up a little bit. And now it just turned red. Okay, so you're seeing AppLovin go red. IONQ just went red. The rare earth stocks are red, but Trump issued some executive order last night saying that we are in a rare earth supply shortage, and all the domestic rare earth companies, I think, have been rallying over the past couple of days because of that. But today they're down. CRML down 4%, USAR down 4%, and then MP, which was up 8% yesterday, that one's down 3%. So kind of weird that those, I guess it's a classic textbook sell the news versus them getting the benefit of that. But they are down. I mean, it is so bitter about Intel. I am so bitter about Intel, dude. You just don't want to look at it. Like, we've all had that moment, right? Where we want to buy stock, we have a thesis, and we choose not to because of whatever reason, and it runs up on it, like absolutely runs up on us. SoFi right there, 27.07. All right, so that's moving a little higher. Amcor, baby. Look at that, 53.75. Look at her run. I mean, I'm looking at the $55 call options on Amcor for tomorrow. There's a decent chunk of volume, folks. 55 for tomorrow, 2,000 open interest, which doesn't sound like a lot, but on a name like Amcor, it's a decent chunk of volume. You might have a lot of option buyers betting on this thing getting to 55 tomorrow. That's getting some momentum. Poet, we talked a little bit about this yesterday. That's up 4%. I think this was up 15% yesterday. Again, another small cap. The trend is why I wrote that Substack article a couple of days ago. The trend really is these smaller names that are finding the alpha. I mean, AEHR, shout out to Roy. This thing is under $1 billion. He's done a lot of fundamental work on this for the past couple of months. And I think this is up 30% year to date. Like, it's just been really hard to find something up 30, 40% year to date, which I know is kind of crazy because January 15th, we shouldn't have those expectations, but still, the way to get them is it's not Meta or Tesla or Nvidia. It's a name like an Amcor, AEHR, a Zeta, which is up, I think, like 15% year to date. Now, Micron and SanDisk are kind of exceptions. Micron is definitely a large cap, but SanDisk is 60 billion, not a small cap, but definitely not a massive large cap. Now, again, you don't have to be in every trade. And I know it creates a lot of FOMO when we see a bunch of these, but we've talked about this in managing emotions and dealing with it. But just as a market participant, seeing these names run, it's kind of obvious how the market is, at least for now, positioning into that rotation. But yesterday we had a little bit of a drawdown. A lot of those high beta names took a little bit of a hit. Some of them recovered. And that's what creates the fear of not wanting to be so heavy into those names. Because if the S&P actually were to fall 5-6%, obviously those names would get hit by close to 30-40%. I think that is the trade-off with being in them. Amazon loses 240, 237. Where's Adobe? A lot of you guys got mad that I talked shit about Adobe yesterday. I'm not saying Adobe isn't cheap. Anyone can look at the numbers and be like, okay, this is a cheap stock. I'm just saying it's not the most exciting when it comes to photo and video editing, even if they do other stuff. That's all I'm saying. But, you know, eventually I think Adobe is going to need a catalyst, just like Salesforce, which is down another 1%. My goodness. As that one's all down. You know, I think a rebound trade for everybody. IGV, I mean, it sucked last year. This is the SaaS ETF, essentially software ETF. The problem is if you're buying IGV, it's down 2% year to date. You're buying little pieces of Salesforce and Adobe and Datadog and stuff. And if those stocks continue to suck this year, this thing's going to suck. Now, it does have Palantir in it, but Palantir alone is, you know, it's one of the only software names that's performing. So The other ones do have to improve to get momentum. AppLovin, that goes red. AMD, that's up 3% still, 237. Bitcoin, are we getting a little bit of a move down? Oh, look at that. 96.7 to 96. Very classic Bitcoin. If we can hold 95 for the week, I'll be happy, to be honest. But there's your Bitcoin price action. That goes the opposite direction. Intel just below 50. AppLovin again 615. Poet at 854. CoreWeave trying to push 100. Spotify increased their prices. Who's keeping their Spotify, or are you canceling? Spotify 535. That's up 2%. Increased subscription prices in US, Estonia, and Latvia. I've always wanted to go to Latvia. I like how the name of that country sounds. Dude, how much are they charging? It's be like $15 a month. It was $12 or something. I mean, if you love your music, you're probably not gonna switch on this. Yeah, it's about 15, $16. And most people are not leaving there. Spotify with their 535. Weekly close above 95.5 would be better. I mean, just not being stuck in the 90 perfect territory would be nice. But yeah, you're right. 95.5 would be amazing. Back to 96, just hovering a little bit above that. BM&R goes down 3% again. Mr. Beast has invested the opposite. Tom Lee has invested in Mr. Beast $200 million. And I agree with Tanner's like if it was 20 million, I would be like, whatever. 200 million. They only have like 850 million in cash, right? That's like 25% of their cash reserves. I mean, it is a very aggressive number, which leads me to think they have to have some plan with what he's going to do with the money for like some crypto platform built on Ethereum. But that was one of the headlines this morning. Ethereum right there taking a little bit of a breather as well with Bitcoin. Nebius at 104, TSM at 344. Where is Oscar? Oscar is at 1632. That's down 2%. Iren, which has been amazing. That's at 52. That's down 1%. Lemonade, which has kind of got hit this week. Lemonade back to 81 as that was down. ASML, I mean, this has had wow. Why is ASML up 7%? Goodness gracious. And remember, see, this is the thing about owning companies that you believe have fundamental thesis. ASMCL was dead money most of last year until the very end when it finally started to get a bit of retracement. I mean, it was stuck from 700 in January of 2025 to 720 to August of 2025. And after August, it finally started making a move. It is at 2 days in 2026 where it was up 7%. Today is one of those days, 1350. They got an upgrade this morning. Let's see the upgrade. But I mean, sometimes you just have to have faith that your thesis is going to play out. And for everyone in ASML, it has played out. Obviously, the TSMC earnings is probably another reason why ASML, which one could argue has like the best or biggest moat in the semiconductor space in terms of lithography. I mean, I know NVIDIA and AMD and all these guys have great moats, but like ASML, my goodness, it's not easy to replace this stuff. 1550 from RBC. 1550 from RBC for ASML. Where's NVIDIA? Everyone goes to the party except NVIDIA. Actually, NVIDIA dressed up to the party today, 188.70. Feels like she wants to maybe come to the 190s, which would be more fun. Can you talk about SanDisk for a few seconds? Up 100% in a month. SanDisk was the top performing stock in the S&P 500. It was up 568% last year. It is a memory play. There is a memory super cycle we're going into, or that we are currently in. I unfortunately missed the concept of memory. I didn't really understand it as well last year. I was more so trying to understand NVIDIA in and of itself, which was my largest semiconductor exposure last year. The problem with the memory stocks is that if we are in a super cycle and that super cycle eventually becomes less of a super cycle, AKA supply doesn't become as constrained, what happens to these stocks? Because these stocks are getting multiples that are not necessarily the most aggressive, but they're definitely getting a premium on their multiples because historically they've never gotten these types of multiples unless we've had a super cycle, because the idea of memory, DRAM, HBM is very cyclical. But if you believe Jensen and Lisa that this cycle is going on for the next 5-7 years, not 5-7 months, and we're going to need memory in all these chips. In fact, Jensen literally bought a company for $20 billion with Grok to kind of sidestep the memory architecture in traditional GPUs. Then yeah, maybe SanDisk and Micron really don't have to slow down for the coming years. Now, granted, their momentum is crazy, but the momentum might not matter in regards to how strong the memory supercycle is in. So I think that's why these guys are winning. I mean, you would think the way Micron and SanDisk are getting priced as a memory stock, you would think they've solved Alzheimer's. Like, because Alzheimer's, you lose your memory. So you would think like the way they're like stocks 500% year to date, like that this thing really solved the biggest memory problem in the world. No, it's dealing with the memory super cycle with HBMs. But it was just absolutely incredible the way these names have been trading. It's just hard to necessarily time that ecosystem. SoFi right there, 26.79. That's up 0.3. Intel still holding above 50. AppLovin flips green. AppLovin flips green. AMD 234. That's up 5%. Okay, 50% of you said that was rough. The other 50% said that was really good. Let's just say I've been holding that one in the tuck. I've been waiting for that one. I thought of it 3 weeks ago. It's been in the back of my mind. I've been waiting for a moment. That was the moment. And I think I capitalized on the moment. I think that moment is going to be the foundation for the stand-up career. Some of you can disagree. That's okay. You can keep hating on the path to success. That was in the tuck. 53.49 on Amcor. We touched 54, man. We touched 54.20. That one looks like it really wants 55. Zeta goes red. Crab's about to lose 450. Again, it does not make a lot of sense to me, but at this point, can't do much about it. Broadcom at 346. ENTG still up 9%. Nebius 3%. CopEx goes red. Probably taking a well-needed breather. And then Rocklev also goes red at 89. Are you buying the Zeta dip? No. I mean, Zeta, we got to see like below 2150 for me to get into this. Now, granted, if you have no exposure, I think 24 to 22 is a reasonable dip. If you have exposure, I think you got to force it to give you a better entry. The good thing about Zeta is when it dips, it's like not just to buy the dip. It's like, oh, the valuation gets even better. So, this thing falls back into the low 20s. Like it really does become a feeling like you can load the boat because the valuation simply is getting more attractive. OSS, that's down 2% after being up 4% yesterday. ASTS also taking a breather. Entry on Zeta is 2050. Now, if Grab keeps falling today, that one might be a more easier buy the dip. This one fell to 449, bounced to 451. JP Morgan at 310, Cloudflare at 0.07% up, and Cypher that's down 2%. Let's see what other headlines we have. We had jobless claims. That was the main macro data today. Ended up coming better than expected. TSM earnings, again, that's pumping all the semis today. That's helping up a lot. BMNR, they have their shareholder thing today. That one's down 2%. We talked about the earnings. Wow, Critical Metals, CRML, signs a $1.5 billion term sheet to set up a facility in Saudi Arabia. CRML, that's down 1%, got a little bit of a bump right there. 50-50 joint split with Saudi Arabia. Paramount Skydance tells Delaware court it fully intends to extend its tender offer for Warner Brothers. Oh boy, that's not slowing down. This Netflix Paramount saga. This is why Netflix, I just feel like, has an overhang for the next year. Like, when does this thing finally end? AMD, are we pushing higher? We are pushing higher. AMD 236. 236. What do you think about OSS at these prices? I'm not buying again until we see $9. I think it's run very hot. If you want a DCA here, I don't think it's horrible, but it's a small cap. We should be able to see it's up like 50%. We should be able to see $9 again on any like major red day on the S&P. So I wouldn't really FOMO here. Maybe selling $9 puts a month out. It's not the worst idea. NVIDIA right there, 188. NVIDIA not moving as much as AMD. AMD absolutely on a tear. Again, this thing was $200 a couple of days ago. Now back to 235. Reddit's getting hit today. Reddit 233. Wow, why is it down 7%? JP Morgan just upgraded these guys to 400 yesterday. Again, I like Reddit. I just really don't love the valuation. I did a deep dive on them a while ago. I think the risk reward here, there's so many other compelling valuation stories in the market versus Reddit. Like I think the free money on Reddit is done, unless you think they're just going to grow faster than what everyone expects. Oscar right here, that's down 1. Meta continues red. I thought we would get a rebound. We are not seeing it, folks. 614. So once again, as we get a little bit into the day, you see the large caps take a breather. Again, the grab dip is because of the Indonesian laws around paying more for the workers. When you really do the math on it, Mike had a great post on it last night. This happened in Singapore and Malaysia. Grab just charged a 50-cent service fee on top of every ride. The rides are already super cheap. So it ends up netting out and becoming a break even. It's not something that's going to compress margins to any meaningful extent. If anything, it's going to stop everyone else that's losing a lot of money from being able to compete, which further solidifies the consolidation thesis. But the headline is that it's bearish. And so, the stock's going to take a hit when that happens. ASML, that one's still moving up 7%. And then NVIDIA, 188. How is Indonesia's economy? Is it slowing? No, Indonesia's economy is actually doing really well. Southeast Asia's GDP is doing really well. The problem is there were a lot of protests in Q4. And that's, I think, another headwind for the overall industry. Now, this is where the management and sort of really the capacity of Grab's execution, which has been phenomenal over the past year. In Q1, there were massive protests as well, and they beat and raised by 30 million. So I think the tourism tailwind, I think there's a lot of stuff that's going to be able to push back against the protests that were happening, which will allow them to guide really well. But the actual headline of having to pay drivers more, that was the bigger issue. Micron right there, 343, that's up 3%. Here's my thing on Grab into Q1. Let's see what they put up for the guidance. Are they going to guide for 25 to 30%? Because then I'm still interested. Are they guiding for 15 to 20%? Then, maybe we have to question how big is the growth story. And so let's see what they put up for guidance. Let's see how the street reacts to it. I mean, even if they were to grow 15%, the stock still should be worth like $7 just based on the basic multiples. But February 10th, we'll have some answers and we'll see kind of how the story tends to play out. Oklo right there, that's up 1% a little bit as well. Can Meta fall to 590? A lot of the TA people, including Jason, who was on Tuesday, yeah, that's their target. Their target is 590, 580 to 590 to buy Meta again. Then again, that would be November lows. I feel like that's a little aggressive. HIMS, wow, that one potentially seeing below 30, 30.92. A lot of these names that kind of tried to get momentum early in the year, they have just not been able to find it. Even SoFi, absolutely dead money the whole year. Great for covered calls, but outside of that, can't do anything. AppLovin continues to get hit. Coinbase down 3. Duolingo, my goodness, this one is just on a different level of getting. This is now trading at the lowest price of sales since 2023 at 155. This one has like a real narrative issue. Like there's some stocks that I think are just being shorted and manipulated, and big guys are trying to get even cheaper prices to continue accumulating. This one I just think has a narrative problem. Same thing with PayPal, and that's why these aren't really moving. What about Adobe? Adobe, I think, has a narrative problem as well. I do think the stock is way more attractive than Duolingo in terms of its moat, and obviously it's for cash flow. But it's a narrative-driven market as well. Space is a hell of a narrative. It's helping Rocket Lab get a 80 times price to sales multiple. I mean, Rocket Lab is, we said this a month ago. I still think Rocket Lab's reminding me of Palantir in terms of the multiple that it's getting for the quality of execution, the quality of company is not necessarily the growth yet. And eventually it'll probably put up the growth. They're 3 cents away from profitability. So what happens when they're gap profitable? That's also going to be good. But also people just want to be part of the story for Rocket Lab, just like people wanted to be part of the story for Palantir. And then you have the SpaceX IPO coming up. Like, I mean, can't Rocket Lab? Okay, no, they have to have what, 4 quarters of profitability. So by the end of 2026, if they get to profitability, they can become eligible for the S&P 500. So we're talking about early H1 of 2027. There's a shot that they would be candidates. SoFi is a candidate this year for the S&P. What do you think of Iran? Same thesis as Nebius. I mean, I like Nebius more, but look, if you believe in the data centers, Iran, Nebius, Corey, they all should do well. They all should do very well. I think there's more than enough demand at this point. Probably should not see I ran back at 35 unless the entire market comes down. Which if it does, I think it's got to be a dip buy. Like if the market comes down for no reason and it doesn't affect the data center thesis, I ran at 35, Nebius at 80 again. Like I would imagine those are buys. Tesla right there, 442, as that's green. Rocket Lab is not as good as SpaceX. Rocket Lab does not have to be as good as SpaceX. Rocket Lab just has to be a proxy to SpaceX, and that's it. Like obviously, no company is as good as SpaceX, but they don't need to, right? They just need to be good enough for investors to get exposure to it. That's what Cantor Fitzgerald said yesterday as well, that would be important. Oh, we got a headline. A Canadian citizen has died in Iran at the hands of the Iranian authorities, foreign minister said in a social media post. Peaceful protest by the Iranian people asking that their voices be heard in the face of the Iranian regime's repression and ongoing human rights violations has led the regime to flagrantly disregard human life. Okay, so I don't know what Mark Carney is going to do about that or say about that. If that was an American citizen, Trump would probably be pretty annoyed right now and issue a statement. But that is the update in terms of a Canadian citizen that has got hit. The Verizon news, by the way, massive outage yesterday. Verizon said it will provide a $20 credit to those who were impacted. So 1.5 million people, you will get $20 from Verizon. I was not affected, but for the 1.5 million people that were affected, $20 is on the way. Bitcoin still holding below 95. Are we long Amcor mid? Yes. We've been talking about Amcor since 30 bucks. I like it. I really don't think it's a sell right here. I think you let this one ride out towards the end of the year, at least until earnings, to see what happens. Amcor right there, 52.24. I ran 51.50. Would you add to your grab spreads at this price? I would go for 2028 instead of 2027, just because it feels like the story might take longer. I've not sold my spreads though. Again, I need to get to 750 to like at least make some money on them. I think that's not crazy, even if we don't see $10. But I think it's 15 days into the year. Like it's too early to make decisions. We haven't even seen earnings yet from a lot of these companies. So like Amazon, if you're in Amazon Leaps, do you cut them because you bought it at 240 or 234 and it's at 237? No, you got to give Amazon a couple quarters to show what they can put up and then kind of decide how that plays out. PayPal goes red, 56.93. S&P, is the S&P down? S&P red candle, but not red yet. 693, lost 694. Reddit's still down 8%. I don't see any downgrades on Reddit, by the way. I don't know why Reddit's down 8%. And HIMS is still down 1%. Grab's price appreciation will come after GoTo is resolved. Yeah, I think so as well. And, you know, that's another part of the story we don't talk about as often, but the GoTo CEO literally got booted by SoftBank because SoftBank has a stake in GoTo and Grab, and they probably want them to merge. And they have a new CEO who's very receptive to, like, so this is one of those things where you could wake up one morning, Grab buys GoTo, and then boom, the entire narrative has changed. Now, do you want to wait for that is the question. If you don't want to wait for that, then there's probably other opportunities that are out there. AMD right here, 235.90, as that is also green. Retail investor buys Leaps, waits 1 week. Why am I not up 10x? This was me with the Robinhood Leaps in 2024. I mean, I knew it would get to my price, but there were some weeks where it was, especially the worst one was October, right before the election. I needed it to be at 25. It was at like 24.70. I was like, all right, I'm good. I'll get those extra 30 cents. Then it drops to 19 after earnings. I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to lose everything. I'm going to lose everything. I have 5 months. I'm going to lose everything. Because Robinhood at $19 at that time was not the same Robinhood is today. And then Trump gets elected and it goes to 30 the next day. I'm like, okay, I'll be all right. I'll be all right. Honestly, I mean, if Trump didn't get elected, I wonder what the market would have done during that time. Because we got a pump. I mean, Tesla went from like 220 to 270 that day. Like that was a pump. Bitcoin ended up getting to 100,000 by December that year. I don't know, maybe the market would have been okay with Harris, but like a lot of people that had short dated options kind of needed a jolt. And maybe the election was a jolt. BlackRock CEO says there's no AI bubble by any imagination. We got to listen to Larry Fink and hear what he has to say. I'm very curious of how he's thinking of a lot of these issues. But they did have earnings today and they crushed it. Larry Fink said there's a strong case for rate cuts if you believe in AI. He also says, I do not believe there's an AI bubble by any imagination. That's his main headline. There's a strong case for AI, for lowering rates if you believe in AI. Well, I think he's talking about deflation from AI, which would counteract the inflation narrative that's keeping rates elevated easily, which is very true. I mean, like if we start having all these robots. Oh, by the way, speaking of deflation from AI, here's a clip of JCal, who visited the Tesla studio, the Tesla factory recently. If we have a lot of robots, it's going to deflate a lot of costs. And if that's the case, interest rates probably have to come down. But here's what he had to say about Optimus.
I don't want to name drop, but I went 2 Sundays ago. I went to Tesla with Elon, and I went and visited the Optimus lab. There were a large number of people working on a Sunday at 10 a.m.
Yeah.
And I saw Optimus 3. I can tell you now, nobody will remember that Tesla ever made a car. They will only remember the Optimus, and that he is going to make 1 billion of those. And it is going to be the most transformative technology product ever made in the history of humanity, because what LLMs are going to enable those products to do is understand the world and then do things in the world that we don't want to do.
Yeah.
I believe it'll be a 1-to-1 ratio of humans to Optimus, and I think he's already won. But I don't want to speak out of school. I don't want to name drop.
See, when you hear something like that, as TSM breaks through 350, or it's about to, when you hear something like that, 348, at least for me, I don't know about everybody else, but it makes me want to buy some freaking Tesla. It makes me want to just DCA into Tesla and not care about the 200 times earnings that I'm paying for Tesla. Because look, we've been talking about robotics on the channel for 2 years. I really do believe there's a humanoid robotic thesis. I also think, just like how the semiconductor revolution with GPUs has created all these smaller companies to invest in, like an Amcor or an Air Test Systems, et cetera, I think there's going to be a ton of investments in the humanoid robotic space. The companies that make the actuators, the factories that start licensing all this stuff. There's going to be, I think, so many derivative investments that will be the Amcors of the humanoid robotics thesis. The problem is we haven't had like even thousands of robots get created, right? If they have, they've been in prototypes. We need hundreds of millions, if not billions of robots to have all those derivative investments to be opportunities. And we're not there yet. And I don't know when we're going to be there. Hopefully it's sooner than later. But those will be opportunities. And then obviously the pure plays like a Tesla are going to be the way to get exposure. And Amazon's a very heavy robotics play. And there's been rumors of Amazon making humanoid robotics, but Amazon's not necessarily focused on humanoid robots. They're focused on a lot of other parts of robotics that are, having a good impact on their operating margins. Amazon might be a big buyer of humanoid robots, but I feel like Tesla's the only one in the public markets. Google with their Apptronic exposure, so if you buy a piece of Google, then you have a piece of Apptronic. But like, it feels like JCal is going to be right, that no one's going to care about the cars in 10 years when the robots are the thesis. So I don't know. It makes me excited about Tesla. Did BM&R invest in Mr. Beast? Yes, BM&R did invest in Mr. Beast. And they're looking to probably do something with Ethereum and crypto. Meta right there, 617. That one flips green. Oh, US just issued new Iran-related sanctions. Okay, let's see. Cactus, if you can find the exact text of these sanctions, that would be good. Huh. We've already had a ton of sanctions on these guys, so I wonder what else we're sanctioning here. But obviously that is another approach the administration has to deal with Iran. Why are all the semis up and Qualcomm is down? It's a great question. Qualcomm has underperformed the semis for a while. They work very deeply with Apple, and there are rumors of Apple's newest AI phone, which might be the foldable phone, needing a ton of Qualcomm technology. So Apple, I think, is the bigger thesis for Qualcomm this year versus Qualcomm itself. But just because it's a semi doesn't mean it has to go up, right? I mean, look at SMCI. There's definitely been a bunch of semi names that have been duds all year. And so you do have to be a little bit more selective on the semis. AMD 237. Absolutely incredible move. That's up 6%. Yeah, CARP will be at the World Economic Forum in Davos. That's happening later next week, I think. CARP's going to be there. Dan Ives is going to be there. There's going to be a bunch of people that will be there. This will be the first CARP appearance of 2026. We haven't heard from him publicly since the earnings back in November. So it's been a while. Okay. Let's see what else. What else do we have? Looked at the jobless claims, crypto relatively flat. TSM, let's get an update on those earnings, as this one really has started the semiconductor move this morning. Oh, Jose will be on today, by the way, guys. He'll be on in about 20 minutes, and we'll get his thoughts on earnings as well.
Demand is, quote, genuine. Cloud providers are seeing strong financial returns and growth continues. So a very strong sign there. This is, like David said, the largest chip manufacturer in the world, the bellwether for the entire industry. And they just surpassed $100 billion in annual revenue for the first time. Margins are intact. Long-term margins are improving. Management said the next 3 years of CapEx, capital expenditures, will be significantly higher than the last 3 years combined, roughly $100 billion. In other words, this AI cycle is nowhere near over. When TSMC spends, chip equipment makers like Teradyne onto innovation, which we don't bring up often enough, ASML really reap the benefits. ASML, for example, you can see up over 5%. It hit a $500 billion market cap for the first time today on this report. TSMC is also completely sold out for fiscal 2026 with customer engagement timelines extending 2 to 3 years in advance. That implies strong ongoing demand from NVIDIA, AMD, Broadcom. Even smartphone sales held up, which strengthens Apple's narrative, at least for the first quarter of this year. No wonder the Street is relatively bullish. Wedbush says, quote, any competitive risk is seemingly still years away. JP Morgan says this AI cycle just keeps chugging along. And those are just two brief examples. Everyone's quite positive on this report. And obviously, we're seeing the ripple effect across the supply chain.
Yeah, well, we're seeing NVIDIA shares up. And AMD actually up sharply, over 6%.
AMD is a big customer
of theirs as well. And it wasn't just this year. Obviously, the CapEx continues to ramp higher than many of the analysts had anticipated.
Precisely, especially over the next 3 years. I think that was a big driver, which shows that they have a view into the future. And if they're able to increase CapEx over the next 3 years, that's signaling that demand for them will go even beyond 3 years, right? Because if you're buying equipment from ASML, an extremely expensive equipment maker, over $1 million, you need to build it, you need to put it in place. So most often the production from those equipments won't come until 2028, won't come online. So if they're saying they're spending on equipment, land, labor over the next 3 years, they're still going to reap the benefits of that equipment well beyond that point, which is a very bullish sign. And the run up too in the stock price.
I mean, that's why we're seeing all the semis. I mean, if they're increasing CapEx to those levels and signaling 3 years out worth of demand, I mean, it's just really hard to be bearish on the semiconductor ecosystem at that point.
Prices have been incredible. So obviously, maybe you're wondering, why isn't the stock up even more? If you look at some of the equipment names, they've been ASML up 25% just this year alone. So there has been some demand in this sector for sure.
Yeah.
They're spending a lot of it in the U.S., right? They're building 3 plants.
Yeah,
which
is great for Arizona. That was a big thing on the call, too, that they're speeding up production and they're working on providing the more advanced manufacturing processes here in the U.S. Not the most advanced in the world, because that would be, in Taiwan. But it bodes really well for manufacturing capabilities and building advanced chips here.
Any hope that Intel could ever compete with them?
They were asked that directly on the call. They were asked that, and I think I'm verbatim. I actually had the quote on my screen, and it's black now. But they said that they're a well-funded company, but the answer was no in terms of competition. Which I love when you get really great answers, a straightforward answer. So I don't know. Maybe we can bring up Intel's share price to see if anybody really caught on to that one comment on the earnings call. But
it was pretty mild pre-market, but it's already up 30% since the beginning of the year.
Yeah, but that's a Trump put, right?
Correct.
So, and you can also say the CPU.
The CPU shortage probably is a reason, but it absolutely is the Trump put. I mean, yeah, there you go. TSM acknowledging that they really aren't going to deal with competition given the capacity that they have to actually produce these chips. I ran right there. That's down 3%. Data center stocks taking a bit of a hit. Tesla losing a little bit of steam. S&P 500 holding strong at 639. You guys are saying TradingView is cooked. Is it not working for people? I see a bunch of you guys say TradingView is cooked right now. Maybe they are having some issues today. Maybe it's Cloudflare like it was a couple days ago. The heat map for today, relatively green on the day. Did I say 639 on the S&P? What am I? Why am I'm getting my numbers wrong? Like the other day, I said Bitcoin was 102,000. I meant to say Nebius was 102. There's your heat map. Lily's down today. Lily taking a breather, down 3%. NVIDIA, TSM leading the way. Wow, a bunch of you guys saying TradingView is out on your end. Okay, so I guess it's either server thing or a Cloudflare thing that's affecting them. Dude, if we saw S&P 639, this is why when people are like, oh, 20% correction, I'm like, hold on. If we saw S&P 639, I think people would cry, like legitimately cry. You're talking about S&P 550? Like, dude, the next time we get a 20% drawdown, which maybe it's this year, maybe it's not. I don't know how people are going to react. When I mean people, I don't just mean retail. I mean like everybody, like institutional investors that have been used to just dips that have been bought. Obviously, retail investors, hedge funds, like that's an aggressive move down if we actually see that. And obviously, it messes up a lot of the high beta names. In terms of the Iran sanctions, U.S. Treasury Secretary sanctions Iran-linked entities following a clarification targeting UAE-based Crystal Gas, FZZ, and associated firms in evading restrictions, coinciding with reports that Iranian leaders are wiring millions abroad amid domestic unrest and fears of regime instability. Okay, so they're sanctioning Iran-linked entities. You do have these reports that Iranian leaders are trying to leave the country and get some money out of the country while they leave. So that could be part of the reason for the sanction as well. All right. So the United States continues to play a role here. Planet Labs, that one's moving. It's another one of your space names. That's up 3.4%. COHR. See some people mention this, Coherent. I actually have never heard of this company. $40 billion stock. It's up 15% today. American manufacturer of optical materials and semiconductors. Looks like they're in the smartphone semiconductor space, or they make chips particularly that are really small for smartphones. Coherent. $5.8 billion in revenue. They traded about 8 times sales, 17% revenue growth. Oh, did they have earnings today? Or they had earnings, I think, 3 days ago. $1.58 billion in data center communication segments. Again, just so many companies. This is what I think is going to happen with humanoid robotics. So many companies that catch the tailwind, whether it's server racks or networking or infrastructure on data centers. Hopefully that happens for humanoids, and that creates a massive industry. Tesla right there, 442, S&P 693, Coherent. That's up 11%. Optical cables set to replace copper in AI data centers. All right. There's your thesis, and that's moving. Copper, by the way, is starting to recover a little bit with COPEX. Galaxy, we haven't talked about Galaxy in a bit. That's up 5%. We got some news from X as well. This one peaked at, what, 45 back in November? Then it got hit with the rest of the market. Galaxy gets a approval for 830 megawatts of power expansion at Helios, doubles total power capacity at 1.6 gigawatts. Construction is underway with their first lease from CoreWeave, and they signed a service agreement with AEP. That's why that stock is up 5% here. Going a little bit the opposite of the other data center names that are flat. Silver's back over 90. Again, that one is not being held down as easily. Okay, we got a headline from X. X says it's blocking Grok from generating images of real people in revealing clothing, such as bikinis, after backlash over sexualized deepfakes. Image features now limit to paid users. Unclear if the same rules apply to Grok's standalone app. Okay, so for those that don't know what was happening on X, people were basically taking random pictures and saying, Grok, put this person in a bikini. And it became this trend, this like really weird trend. And the UK's, I mean, over the past couple of days have said, we're going to literally ban X from the country if this continues. Because you just had a lot of weird shit on the platform. And these posts were going super viral. Like they were putting Maduro in a bikini. And that's like the tame version of some of the stuff that was going on. So yeah, I mean, it makes sense that X is probably cracking down on that. I mean, because with AI, right? Like the AI is just doing what the humans prompting it to do. And if it's getting weird prompts, it's gonna do that stuff. Tesla right there at 442. TSM really, oh, no, we broke over 351. Who owns TSM? Put in the chat if you own TSM. 1.7 trillion, 1.8 trillion now. This thing back in 2022, along with NVIDIA. These were important. But I don't think everyone, I mean, I think a lot of people missed this one. I think a lot of people piled into AMD and NVIDIA. This one went a little bit under the radar, even though it was one of the important ones. Yeah, some of you were saying it. Hey, Grok, make a mid funny. Okay, that is mean. We need to stop being mean to people. We just need to be nicer people. Salesforce, another 2% down. We can keep being mean to Salesforce, though, until this stock doesn't turn around. That was mean, bro. That was freaking mean. I own SMH. Yeah, that's also your exposure. Is Triple V buy and grab again? I don't know. I know he hasn't sold. He has 10 million shares at like a 520 average. He hasn't sold any. I don't know. This one, patience is a virtue. I know people hate hearing it, but again, if you hate it, you got to get out. That's all I can say. I can't do anything else. I really can't. If complaining gives you dopamine, then that's fine, but I'm in it. If I sell, I will let people know, but I'm not, because nothing has changed. And I'm not alone thinking that. Every analyst, including the two that came out this morning that reiterated a $7 price target, like sometimes you have to go through this stuff. Netflix right there, 89.47, up 1%. Are you still in BMNR? Yes. $50 million of grab. Yeah. I mean, it's actually a pretty small position for him, to be honest. But when grab was moving to 650, I think he had 5 million. That's when he doubled down and bought another 5 million. But and again, every time I don't understand how a stock gets 1 billion shares of volume. Grab is not a meme stock. Let's make this very clear. It cannot. There's 4 billion shares. A meme stock needs a low float to run. Like it's mathematically impossible for something with 4 billion shares to become a meme, because you just need way more attention than your average meme stock would need to get it to run. And there was no catalyst for attention. I'm not Eric Jackson. I'm not going in front of a CEO's house and walking in front of their door, recording a video saying, hey, you should buy 1 share grab. Like it just happened randomly. So where does 1 billion shares of volume coming in September, takes the stock up 40% and then fades away completely in 2 months? Like, that doesn't make sense. Like, I just feel like there's something bigger going on here, and I don't have the answer to it. But that was not retail. That can't be real. Most retail don't even know what grab it. Like, yeah, some people on Twitter know what it is, but like, it's not enough to create, you know, there's group chats in China on WeChat that talk about Open Door all day. That's not happening with grab. So I don't know. I think there's something deeper going on, but it might require some patience. Oh yeah, that's a good point. It's the options expect. Dude, there's like 300,000 open options for Friday. That's a good point. So the market makers are definitely getting their money's worth on these options. Like the $7 call has like 250,000 open interest. So a lot of those probably expire worthless tomorrow. AppLovin back down to 614. That's red. Are you in Salesforce like Steve? I am not. Steve and I have had a lot of debates about Salesforce. Obviously, it's cheap. What did it for me to like officially not even touch it is after Benioff's guidance for 2030. And he's like, we will have a rule of 40 of 50. I was like, no, I'm not. Like Ballinger is pushing 90 on the rule of 40. I know Ballinger's multiple is still aggressive, but this is not explosive growth. Their Einstein chatbot, it can't be the reason you pile into Salesforce. I don't think Salesforce has done anything with AI. I really don't. And we're not seeing it from a growth perspective. And when you have things like Claude Cowork come out and make you think they're going to do everything that the chatbot that Salesforce is doing. Not saying it's a horrible AI play. It's just not the AI play in the software space. It's just not. And the other ones are getting a premium for a reason. Nate says Agentforce sucks. Yeah, I mean, and look, I haven't used Agentforce, so I'm not even speaking on the quality of the product. I'm just saying like the numbers are not showing explosive growth on Agentforce. It's just not. So it's hard to be super excited about it. Zeta, are we getting some red? 2248, all right, a little bit of rebound up from 2201 where it bounced. Beyond Meat is up 7% today. Nate says I work with it every day and it's shit. Well, there you go. You've got a lot of people doubting it. Duolingo, that goes up 3. Chevron and Exxon went red after going green yesterday. The quantum names go red besides D-Wave, which looks like it's about to go red. Microsoft below 460 again, bro. What is it going to take for Microsoft to make a move here? This is becoming pretty incredible on MSFT. That one keeps getting hit. Why is Nebby's down, CoreWeave up? They've been diverging a little bit over the past 2 weeks. I don't know. I'm actually not sure why CoreWeave's getting the benefit of the doubt versus Nebius. By the way, let's talk about crypto. We forgot to mention this. So what's his name? Brian Armstrong came out yesterday and said he is fully opposed to the Clarity Act. And he basically says, I'd rather have no act than this act after reviewing it, given it's basically going to ban the CFTC from operating as an independent agency, which is the key governing body over prediction markets. It's going to have a de facto ban on tokenized equities, and it's going to have massive DeFi prohibitions. I thought Bitcoin would have tanked when this came out, but Bitcoin actually held up. But you've got one of the biggest leaders of crypto saying we are not a fan of this legislation. Then you have Senator McCormick, who came out this morning and tried to give more of his thoughts on what's going on with crypto.
Progress with Chairman Scott, Banking Committee, Subcommittee Chair Lummis, and my colleagues Bernie Moreno and Senator Haggerty have really made an enormous amount of progress. There's still some sticking points, and there's a number of amendments and things being kicked around that I think can potentially resolve those. But the key here is we've got to have a framework that creates certainty that allows for the innovation. And at the same time, keeps our banking industry healthy and intact. And I think there's going to be a path through that, but it's very complex and it's going to take a while.
Well, let's get into the weeds just for a second. So this is what Brian Armstrong says that he's raising his objections over. And we may have to explain some of this to the audience. The first is he believes that this effectively would erode the CFTC's authority, making it, as he says, quote, subservient to the SEC, that the bill would do that. The second is he believes that it gives the government quote, unlimited access to investors' financial records. And the third piece is that he believes that this draft amendment effectively would kill what's called rewards, if you will, on stable coins. How would all of that be overcome?
Well, there's a number of issues that a number of market participants and banks have included in the mix, and there's been a lot of resolution. I think sort of the key rub is how do you embrace the innovation, which America needs to do to make sure we remain the leader, where we have the capital, we create consumer confidence, guard against illicit finance. And part of that is by having rewards that incent people to adopt crypto, but doing that in a way that doesn't disadvantage banks where there's a significant outflow of deposits. and to create an environment where there's adequate competition. And that's a hard thing to get right. It's a balancing act, but there's lots of good ideas floating around. And this is not to have a markup pushed. Happens all the time, and this is a particularly complex.
No, I disagree, dude. I trust Brian Armstrong over the suits. If Brian Armstrong says this is not a good bill, I'm defaulting to the crypto CEO. I mean, if they erode the authority of the CFTC, prediction markets get kissed goodbye underneath the new administration, because that's the only reason prediction markets are legal and sidesteps the sports books, because the CFTC has designated these contracts as like futures contracts. Otherwise, if the SEC was in charge of prediction markets, they'd be banned years ago. Like Kalshi wouldn't exist. So I do think Brian Armstrong is thinking of it a bit differently. Robinhood, 2%. A lot of people are asking, what catalyst does Robinhood need? I think I understand Robinhood really well, just given how long I've spent understanding and analyzing the business. And my fear towards the end of 2025 was that crypto volumes are dying down. Overall volatility in the market is high, but not the type of high that's needed to create massive volumes. And Robinhood's trading at an aggressive multiple, which is why I don't think we're seeing movement. But the fact that the S&P is at all-time highs, you have all these, some meme stocks, some legit companies that are like running, that's good for Hood, but it's not getting the volume. Even crypto over the past couple of days, like it's not enough to hold Hood above 120. I think the market is more seriously afraid, not in a bearish perspective, but just like they're questioning, can Robinhood grow at the levels it was growing at over the past couple of years? And I think this is the year where Vlad has to show differentiated products that are detached from trading volumes, which quite frankly, they don't have a lot of those. And it's going to take time for those to build out, which means Hood just might be a little bit more in the backseat versus be a leader like it was last year. And so that's part of the reason why I hedged. It's just like, I don't know if it has that type of explosive growth. I mean, again, it's just the numbers, right? They have to beat $1 billion in revenue every quarter. Even if they do 1.3, okay, that's 30% growth, but that's not 80% growth like they were doing before. And that's okay. They're not supposed to do 80% every year, but that is a re-rating that has to be factored in. Now, long-term, Hood's a top 10 financial institution in the world. It's just, if we do end up going through a crypto winter or something, that could be a little bearish. But that is not a sell Hood, in my opinion. That is just net new money long, trying to get alpha exposure. It might not be Hood. I was talking with a guy yesterday, though, and he said he had 88,000 shares of Robinhood. Unfortunately, he sold them at $30 in the tariff lows, and he never got back in. And he was just telling me how much he regrets it. And that shit is crazy, bro. And I'm sure there's other stories like that. But those tariffs spooked a lot of people. And then once it goes from 30 to 40, you're like, oh, it'll go back to 30. Then it goes to 50. You're like, oh, it'll take a breather. And then, Robinhood just didn't take that breather. I mean, you had very few dips last year that actually gave you a chance to get in. And that's why I say you don't sell. You got to hold through it, because it's really hard to time some of those explosive moves. Kraken and A16Z support the bill. Wow, that's interesting. I mean, the fact that Coinbase is against it, you got some other big crypto companies that are for it. That is a real divergence. That is weird. A16Z is a big crypto fund as well. Coinbase right there down 4% on the day. Sam Altman raises $250 million to link brains and computers. I think this is his Neuralink competitor. It's called Merge. Sam Altman raises $252 million to link brains and computers. Why is he trying to be like Elon so much? Does he really need to make a Neuralink competitor? Like, does he actually have to do this? $252 million. I mean, OpenAI is going to have a stake in this probably. It's definitely going to happen. Take a look at this chart. I thought this was interesting. Once again, kind of points to why the trading volumes might not be that elevated, because volatility isn't that elevated. VIX futures positioning among asset managers is down to 36 million, the lowest since August of 2024. You're not getting a lot of people trading volatility. You're not getting a lot of people trading volatility. It was net long 20 million, and now it's reversed. So I mean that's promising because it means that a lot of these fund managers are probably expecting net long to be the play, which also means VIX calls are cheap right now. Wow, Vlad supports it. They are all letting freaking Brian Armstrong go under a bus. That's interesting. Vlad supports it. Brian Armstrong doesn't, and A16Z does. Well, now I support it because I like Vlad. I mean, Vlad, I like Vlad. He's a good guy. I was like, oh, I can't take the side of I support the crypto CEO. But if you make me pick between Vlad and Brian Armstrong, I mean, this is how you know I'm such an outsider to crypto. I'm such no, but that's weird. I don't know why he's supporting it. Because either Brian Armstrong is lying or Vlad is contradicting himself here. Because Brian Armstrong says this erodes the CFTC authority. That's not good for prediction markets. And Robinhood's making a lot of money off predictions. So that's actually confusing to me why he's supporting it, which maybe means Brian Armstrong is not necessarily telling the whole truth about the bill. I don't know. I didn't go that deep into it. I just saw the headline. And the headline, I default to the crypto CEO. But I love Vlad, so now I default to Vlad. Oh, by the way, NVIDIA just invested in his startup, Harmonic. These guys are raising money like every other freaking month, but they just raised the Series C, 1.4 billion, and NVIDIA is putting in some money, probably because they're going to be buying some GPUs. So that's what you got with Vlad. All right, folks, let's bring on a guest to the show. This is the first appearance of 2026 for that guest, and hopefully we have many more appearances throughout the year. Ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about some semiconductors with Jose. What's up, man?
What's going on, man? Good morning.
Dude, it was fun seeing you in Vegas.
Yeah, I know. I mean, we live in Jersey, but we had to go to Vegas to see each other. I think that's wild.
You got to tell everybody about how we got drunk and we had fun. You got to let them know how
my wife is watching. Relax. I was in the room the whole time, just chilling, doing work.
What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, folks. No, but it was awesome, man. It was great to see you. It was great to see NVIDIA up close. I mean, Jensen's aura, I think, was affecting both of us. So that was pretty awesome. Jose did a couple of interviews with some of the NVIDIA executives that I'll link in the chat as well. You can watch them on his Twitter channel. Jose, let's get right into it. TSM, yes. They crushed earnings. I mean, these are the epicenter of where the chips are being made. What was your reaction to the earnings they put up?
I mean, TSMC, I think TSM just gave a green light. I feel like I say this every time TSM reports earnings. It continues to give us the green light about the AI market. I mean, the biggest thing was there were three things that really stood out to me. First is they did a massive growth in CapEx, right? I think this year they did about $42 billion. And for 2026, they expect it to be $52 to $54 billion or so. That's a massive growth. And it's important to remember that it takes about 2 to 3 years to build a manufacturing plant for these fabs, right? These semiconductor fabs. So if they're spending money right now, is because they expect this demand to continue in 2027, 2028, and 2029, right? So seeing CapEx growth now gives us a strong indication of the foreseeable future. The second thing that I thought was pretty interesting was they increased their AI accelerator compounded annual growth rate. I think before it was in the 40%, they increased it to the mid to high 50% for the next 5 years. So again, if you're NVIDIA, if you're an AMD, if you're a Broadcom, that should be screaming amazing investors. It should be like, yes, this is what we want to hear. You're telling us that for the next 4 to 5 years, we're going to continue to see strong demand in AI chips. And then the final thing is they talked about their overall total compounded annual growth rate in revenue, not just AI. Their total, they expected around, I think it was 30% for the next 4 to 5 years, starting since 2024. So about the next three or 4 years. And this year they're expecting 30%. I think last year they grew about, I forget, I think the revenue numbers here about another 30%. So if this trend continues, we're going to expect to see another 20 to 30% revenue growth for the next few years. So indication, and TSM management is usually not one to overhype things. They say it how it is. If it's bearish, they tell you, look, we're not going to invest. If it's extremely bullish, they take out that wallet and they make that massive capex. Yeah, pretty exciting for the semiconductor industry, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, even the commentary by the TSMC executives I thought was really interesting as well. Like the numbers that they're putting up and the increase of capex projections they're putting up also signals that this is a multi-year cycle, probably until 2028, 2029, which I think also is probably getting a lot of the semiconductors very excited about the overall industry. Do you think the takeaway from the earnings for most of us that own NVIDIA and AMD is just hold on for the ride because these names have to go higher?
Yeah, I mean, for me, that's exactly what it was. It's this green light to hold and to buy back any pullbacks. Because I mean, to see a company that's usually very frugal with their wallet spending, right? I feel like TSM is usually that they're very careful with their wallet spending, and for them to kind of pretty much have it open wallet, if someone who has and TSMC's management has gone through all these cycles for many years, right? It's not like they're new to this. They know a semiconductor cycle. And that's why they were usually very frugal with it. But to be in this cycle and them to kind of be acting a little bit different, to me, I'm going to be following them. Just like they're opening their wallets to capex, I'm going to be opening my wallets to AI and chip stocks in the long term.
You were at the NVIDIA event with myself, and we got to see what Jensen had to say. We got to talk to a lot of the NVIDIA executives around Nemotron, open source models, physical AI, simulation. I mean, you've been following the NVIDIA story for a long time, but did that CES and the conversations you had, did that make you more bullish? And if it did, why?
Yeah, because I mean, I think obviously they have cool announcements, but what I learned about some of the updates that they make to what NVIDIA made to like the Vera Rubin on just the ability to fix it, to manufacture it, the reliability of having it runtime running, how it's hot swappable now, opposed to back then not being hot swappable. All these little updates that no one really talks about is going to be a reason why they're ahead of the competition. With the open source models, I mean, they released that, they released the model Alpha Mayo, I forget the actual name, Alpha Mayo, for thinking and driving. That's insane. We're going to have Mercedes releasing something soon, and it's going to be updated over time. And NVIDIA is one of those companies that the reason they do a lot of this stuff is not just to benefit themselves, but it's to benefit the ecosystem. Because if they give all these open source models for free, there might be some other company that couldn't have made their own model, but they can develop something with this model. And then in the future, they can become the next unicorn because NVIDIA has created like these free solutions for them. So I think NVIDIA is pretty smart at just building the whole ecosystem with it, because they know if the ecosystem rises, they're going to be able to sell more chips.
Do you think they are going to seriously compete in self-driving, or is it just something they say every event?
So, I mean, NVIDIA does it smart, right? They don't necessarily compete. They just give you the tools. They give you everything, right, to do it. And then somebody else is going to do it for you. And that's the thing, right? So right now, Tesla is, I use FSD whenever I get on my Tesla. It's amazing. So they're just giving the tools so the next company can do it, and then they can sell them more. So it's an indirect competition. But I would say I wouldn't sleep on NVIDIA. They have a great research team. I'm not saying this is extremely bearish for Tesla just now, but it does close the kind of gap that maybe some of these automaker Tesla used to have back then.
Okay, let's talk a little bit more deeper about some of these other names. CoreWeave, I know this one's been giving you some troubles over the past couple of months, but it is rebounding pretty hard, almost at $100. Thesis intact for CoreWeave, and how are you thinking of their 2026?
Yeah, I mean, super excited. This is one that, again, I'm very bullish in just the AI infrastructure play. CoreWeave is my number one, followed by Nebius, and I don't think I really have a number three much. I have a little investments here and there, but nothing crazy. CoreWeave, super excited. I mean, they just I don't know if people remember last quarter, they mentioned about a delay in one of their data centers, and that caused a little bit of a spook for the stock. A lot of rumors and news have come out in the past few days that the delay is almost over. They've actually turned up about 16,000 GPUs at the end of December on this delayed facility. So I'm expecting a lot of great things. CoreWeave is still intact for this one. I'm still very bullish in this one, and I think now with this being back in 97, so I'm back. My cost basis was like low 90s right now, so I'm happy with it.
Yeah, I mean, this thing got up to like 65 at one point, right? So really gave an opportunity for a lot of people to jump down. Are you still pretty bullish on the neo clouds outside of CoreWeave, like the Nebius, Irens, APLDs? I mean, I know you don't necessarily own them, but do you still think, given all the comments we've heard from the CEOs and TSMC, that they're probably just going to continue to get more demand?
Yeah, I think if you look at it at a thematic viewpoint, yes, all the neo clouds are going to get exciting, and they're going to follow this trend, and that's as that thematic view. I think there is going to come a time where it depends on how reliable your data center is at these GPUs, because running GPUs is hard. You don't just turn it on and the GPUs are on 100% of the time. There's so many errors that go through with it, and if I'm paying you 100,000, whatever, and you're telling me my data center is going to be down like 20% of the time, but I can pay somebody else an extra few percentage up, and you tell me their data centers are up 99% of the time, I'll rather go with them. And that's something that many people don't talk about CoreWeave, and that's one of the benefits of CoreWeave. Their utilization and their reliability rate is extremely high compared to the competitors. I think eventually that will matter. That will matter. I think right now, where we are in this AI wave, it's a thematic and it's pretty much a ride anyone you want type wave.
Do you know about OSS? People are saying you know about that name.
Yeah, so I mean, AK Media here mentioned I did talk about OSS a few years ago. It's what. It's one of the few small caps that I own a very small position. I wish I would own a lot, like stock market talk. But to me, OSS, for those that are not familiar, I'm an engineer that came from I used to work for a government contractor that used to be things like national defense. And it's crazy how hard it is to have electronics and anything just past the certification to be able to use in these variable types of environments with high vibration, high fluctuation in temperatures, and so much more. OSS is that company that deals with that, right? And they have a great partnership with NVIDIA. I mean, right now, obviously with AI growing, military spending in AI, you're kind of seeing that excitement there. I don't know if I would be buying much right now, but
especially after it's run up as much as it has.
Yeah. I mean, I own a small position, nothing to go buy a new Lambo or anything, but maybe to buy a nice few small cars here and there.
Meta, is this a screaming buy to you right now from an AI perspective?
I like Meta a lot. I do. I had 3 Max 7s I like right now are Amazon, Meta, and NVIDIA. I think the market hates Meta for not giving the best AI model out there and investing too much in AI data centers. But Meta has talked about it in the past. They're starving in compute, and any type of compute that they can add becomes profitable to their core business. I like Google, maybe just not in the valuations right now. I saw someone ask on chat. I like Google, but I think my top 3 right now are NVIDIA, Amazon, Meta, and the number 4 would be Google, if I was to put there.
And then those 3 picks are more so rooted on, like, Amazon and Meta haven't really moved in a year. NVIDIA obviously is like the king of AI. So you're thinking about it from like a catch-up trade as well, once the street recognizes what's going on.
Yeah. So for Amazon, this huge growth in AWS, I think, is happening, right? And I think Amazon has been a very bad underperformer. I added Amazon on December. It's the first time I've actually had it into my overall portfolio. Again, most of these investments are always based on that AI infrastructure theme. And I think AWS was getting punished quite a bit a few years ago. I think that's going to change. And we're going to see some strong demand as but everybody's spending like crazy, and their cloud market is continuing to see growth.
AMD 200 to 237 got some pretty big upgrades over the past days. Do you continue to just hold on to this name?
Yeah, I mean, I see this as $1 trillion company. You keep asking me about all the stocks I like, so it makes it seem like I own every single stock. I really don't. But AMD, I see this having $1 trillion opportunity with the numbers they gave on earnings per share. The real winner, the real deciding factor is going to be the second half of this year when they release the Helios rack with the MI450. If we see Helios do amazing, then this is definitely, in my opinion, going to move to $1 trillion player.
Yeah, and I think, you know, Lisa Su said 5 billion people in the next coming years are coming on to AI. The revenue targets, I mean, if you assume conservative multiples, the stock could be like $900 in 2030 if they do caker the 35%. So I agree. It is exciting for NVIDIA and AMD itself.
I saw a question here. How many positions does Jose hold? I hold a few, but I would say about 7 to 10 positions make up like 85 to 90% of my portfolio. So it's concentrated. The whole portfolio is concentrated within 10 names. I would say that's NVIDIA, AMD, CoreWeave, Amazon, Google. I forget the other ones, but like those 5 alone are probably like 60% of my overall portfolio. So I'm concentrated within like 10 names. So I would say 90. And then I have like little small gambles within the other 10%.
Any thoughts on Credo, CRDO?
Credo, no thoughts right now. Definitely been seeing a pullback on the networking market. I think Credo's been down. Stera Labs has been down. They kind of combat in that scale up approach in the semiconductor industry. With this pull down, keeping a closer eye on. But no real thought here.
Marvell, you still like this one?
Oh yes, Marvell, yes. So that's probably one of the top 10s too. If you add there, Marvell, $70 billion market cap, right? So yeah, $70 billion market cap. It's doing ASIC solutions. They have various networking solutions. They made a few acquisitions to the networking scale up with the optics as well. And they also have some form of kind of like storage solutions. So I think this has the opportunity to be a multi-bagger. A lot more competition because they have big players against Broadcom. They have companies like NVIDIA and AMD, obviously, in the GPU ASIC space. But I like Marvell. That's like my extreme multi-bagger potential here in the semiconductor stock.
All right, we're going to wrap it up. A little bit of rapid fire, just your 30-second thoughts on a bunch of different tickers. Before we get into that, again, you guys can follow Jose on X, his newsletter, What the Chip Happened. You can check it out right there. He also has a private community for that if anyone wants to join. So I'm putting the link right there in the chat. And you can get a lot more access to Jose and his thoughts on the semiconductor ecosystem. Okay, rapid fire. Rubric, any thoughts on this one?
No thoughts on that one. I think cybersecurity, I don't follow that market too much right now. It's pretty hard.
SMCI.
SMCI, massive revenue growth potential, but their margins are taking a hit, massive hit. I think margins are down almost 50% versus where they were in 2023. So that's the biggest scary things. But now my question is, even though the business is sucking, the valuation might be mispriced to that. So valuations look attractive, business still sucks.
Intel.
Trump invested and saved the day, right?
Jose, how did we not go wrong on this, dude? How did we?
I don't know. I mean, they give us the ultimate buy signals. I have to listen. We have to listen a lot more to these buy signals. 18A. It's
not going to lose money. It's just that
CES announced their Panther Lake, which is based off their 18A architecture. That's doing really well, so that's exciting. And it seems like CEO actually was pretty excited about 14A. So there's excitement for the foundry business. We actually also see strong growth in the server CPU business for both Intel and AMD. So bullish there on business side.
Navitas.
I don't own. Navitas, short term, I think I'm going to continue to say this short term. I think it's a press release story. So it's going to move a lot on press release with any of these partnerships with NVIDIA and the 800-volt data center solutions. In the long term, there's opportunity. But short term, I think it's just extremely volatile for my taste.
Air Test Systems, any thoughts on that?
Oh, I like that. Semiconductor equipment company, less than $1 billion market cap. They used to primarily make burn-in or a stress test for chips that used to go on electric vehicles. Just a year ago, they started to pivot into AI accelerators. That's actually doing really well. And most recently, they actually mentioned that they're actually getting customers, potential customers for the memory side. And we know how exciting the memory business is right now. So I like Air Test Systems.
That's actually, okay, so that's the last topic goes in. I mean, what's going on with memory? Like, is this, do you have to have exposure to this, or is owning NVIDIA enough?
Do you? I don't know. To me, the memory market scares me the most. You see massive demand out there, right? Strong demand. There's no doubt about it. There's massive demand in the memory space, especially for HBM. But the memory market is one of the few markets that everybody wants prices to be cheaper. Not you and I, right? But like NVIDIA wants HBM prices to be cheaper. Google wants HBM prices, AMD, everybody. When all those big dogs want your stuff to be cheaper, they're going to help other players make sure that they catch up to you. And that's the scariest thing.
Jensen's not going to let the memory stocks keep their margin, is what you're implying.
Exactly right there. And some might say, Jose, isn't that the same story for NVIDIA, right? Don't people want NVIDIA? So how can you be saying be using this argument against memory, but not NVIDIA? And my argument to that is within the memory space, the gap in competition is extremely close. You have SK Hynix, you have all these like super close. So all these players can go and say, look, I'm going to invest on you a little bit more so you can catch up to your competitors a little bit closer. With NVIDIA, I don't see that being the case. I feel like the gap is so much higher that even if you help the other players, it's not going to close the gap by much. Regardless, we know that Micron has sold out in HBM this year. I think they mentioned 2027. They already have contracts being worked out. Forward PE ratio is typically very low and is still around below 10. But to me, it just scares me to know that every big player wants to eat up your margins, because you are, for those that are not familiar, the most expensive part of building an H100 or building a Blackwell, building a Vera, it's not TSMC. The most expensive part is HBM. So if you can cut down the margins there, you're going to be able to save a lot of money.
All right. I love it. Jose, thank you for the very, very in-depth analysis on all things semiconductors. I'm putting Jose's Twitter and YouTube in the chat. Please make sure to follow him. And he'll probably be on next week as we go from here. Dude, earnings are starting soon. We got 2 weeks left, and then
I'm drinking. I don't drink coffee, but it's just the same. I'm locked in. I'm locked in for the next 2 months or so.
Also, you're live streaming every day now, right, on your channel?
Yeah, just a quick hour, 11 to 12, very quick, and just Q&A session. It's just a rapid fire Q&A session. I don't really talk much. I just try to see how many questions I can answer in an hour. I think I might even have a counter next to start seeing how many I can do. Okay,
so he'll be starting in like 10 minutes, and so if anyone wants to join his channel, you can get some more Q&A for Jose as well. Thank you, Jose. Appreciate it. See you on the next one.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it. Take care.
Later. All right, a little bit of dumpy dump across the market. Google gets down 1.5. OSS down 1. S&P not fully getting hit. This one holding on 693. Grab getting demolished right here. I mean, the next level of support is 420 if they really take her down to those levels. So, I mean, if we're going to get there, then I guess we're going to get there. Like, I want to buy it right here, but right now it looks like a falling knife. And if I'm going to buy again after not buying for a month, I'm going to buy heavy. And so I want to see, like, I'm going to buy like 10,000 shares if this thing gets down to the 420s, 430s. So let's see. I mean, right now it's a falling knife. Right now I want to see if there's price action down or up. Let's see if we have to make a big ad or not. Let's see. Well, this one's getting destroyed right here. SMCI down 3%, SanDisk down 8%, Meta down 1%, S&P still flat, Zeta's kind of flat, Nebius up a little bit, Broadcom up a little bit. I mean, some parts of the market are losing their pump, but like Amcor lost a lot of its pump, but COPEX is once again going green, so that's recovering. SanDisk still up 7%. I think what Jose said about memory, Jensen specifically talked about memory. We were listening to him live, and you could tell he was making an argument. Even Tanner was talking about this while we were there, that Jensen's not going to easily allow the memory companies to just have this unlimited level of pricing power. If anything, NVIDIA is going to want to get into the memory space. Now, maybe that doesn't matter until Micron's like $400, $500, but it is a little scary, right? It's like, when does the momentum die out, and does the momentum have to die out? But and maybe it doesn't have to. And so that's why the Microns, the SanDisk could be a good long. MP is still down. All the rare earths getting hit. And to sell the news, as that's down 3%. Yeah, RSI 14 on Grab. Okay, I don't think Grab's going to $2. I would hope that doesn't happen. I don't know, dude. What's the volume today? Volume's 24 million. Yeah, that's way higher than the average right now. It's got to be something else. There's got to be a big fund or something that's creating this sell pressure. Retail's been buying. If you look at the net buy trends. So there's got to be something. But also big money. Dude, again, institutional float is 84%. So it's not like... the 13Fs have already started coming out. You're seeing funds buy 20, 30 million shares. The shorts are in control. Robinhood as well getting a hit, dude. 115.90. This one also is down 4%. What if they go bankrupt? They have $7 billion in cash, doing $4 billion in revenue, growing 25% year over year. Like, they're not going bankrupt. I see this is where the price action obviously will dictate the sentiment. Like, yeah, the sentiment is shit because of the price action. They're growing 25%. They're going to do 4.3 billion in revenue, if not more, next year. They're doing 500 million in adjusted EBITDA. They're profitable, and they have 7 billion in cash. Like, this is not a fundamental story that's getting hit. There's something different. But it doesn't matter because people care about the stock price. I just would not assume bankruptcy is on the table. Like, this is not a penny stock, is what I'm trying to the same extent that traditional penny stocks are, even if it's below $5. They will not need to do a reverse split, is my point. NVIDIA right there, 187. That one still flips green. Intel goes red on the day now, 50 to 48. So that one's down. And then Amcor still up 5%. Dead money is dead money, though. That is correct. Dead money is still dead money. What is Trump tweeting? Hold on. Trump just put out a tweet. Oh, Trump tweeted a picture. This is the picture. Everyone can see. This is very unfair for our tech companies and for the United States of America. I've actually seen this picture before. This is a picture of all the fines that the EU gets, which is more than the tax paid. 3.8 billion in fines versus 3.2 billion in income tax. Trump just tweeted, this is very unfair for American companies. Bitcoin just fell to 95.6 and now we are at 96.6. Wow. Immediate $1,000 candle reversing on Bitcoin. Stools, thanks for the super chat. Check out Sept tokenization, pure play backed by BlackRock, Morgan Stanley, and ARK, CEPT. I feel like I've heard this ticker before. Oh, yeah, it's Cantor Equity. I mean, dude, Cantor Equity has plenty of connections to the crypto ecosystem. I don't know if they're a tokenization pure play, unless they acquire one of those companies in that arena, but I definitely would say it's a crypto ecosystem play for sure. Let's listen to Larry Fink. He was just on. Let's see what he has to say about state of the markets and AI.
The growth that we saw in Latin America, in Asia, in the Middle East was extensive. No firm has the combination of public markets now private markets, investment technology. So we're able to provide a whole portfolio, a complete relationship. When you think about, everyone's speculating what's going to happen in 401ks and the introduction of private markets. Well, we're the largest player in that already. And so we have those type of relationships already. It is not just about inserting private markets. It's about a portfolio. It's about, trying to create the most unique portfolio to meet the beneficiaries' long-term needs. And we've organized the firm to provide both public and private markets. And then you intersect what we were doing in investment technology, which we had 16% ACV growth in the quarter. If you're going to provide private markets into 401ks and all that, you're going to need to justify it. And the only way you're going to be able to justify it is through investment technology. They're coming to BlackRock to set that up as we develop Preqin as a part of Aladdin.
So the words you use in the call, differentiated momentum, is that what I'm hearing you talk about? Is that the differentiation?
I don't think I said that, but I like that term.
Oh, all right. Well, somebody said we enter 2026 with differentiated momentum.
We have.
Yeah.
But it's still, look, there was a negative thesis going around, which was that this is commoditized. I think that this was the quarter where it just says, no, there's BlackRock, and then there are the companies that are commoditized.
What we saw over the last 10 years, 15 years, as we've done mergers, every time you do mergers, there's questions on, are you integrating? How, can you achieve what you expected? So there's always that uncertainty post-mergers. We saw that certainly in 2009 when we did BGI, when everyone said you could not marry public markets and passive and active. I guess they were wrong on that when iShares had 300 billion and now 5.5 trillion. And now we're merging both public markets and private markets, and there's that uncertainty. I think what the fourth quarter showed, maybe that uncertainty was not unjustified. We are executing. The integration of all three firms is going as planned.
Their 401k stuff in retirements is obviously heating up as well. Trump is clearing the way for 401ks to have access to private equity, which is a big opportunity for BlackRock. OpenAI headline seeks U.S. supplier for planned robotics AI device push. We talked about this on Monday, that OpenAI is getting into different AI devices. I'm really skeptical about these AI devices. Bloomberg reporting this right now. OpenAI has been thinking about humanoid robotics for the past couple of years now as well. Again, very skeptical. The level of supply chain that's needed for robotics at scale is different. Now, AI devices with their AirPod competitors, theoretically, that might be a lot easier to create. But I think a lot of people are wondering, what the hell is Sam Altman doing, and what's going to stick? What's actually going to be the thing that works when it comes to being able to generate new sources of revenue. Again, the main quote by Larry Fink right there is that he thinks that AI is not a bubble and that he thinks it's growing pretty substantially. Obviously, BlackRock's getting a lot of excitement in terms of people that want to invest in it. BlackRock also had a pretty big quarter as well. This is what he said about the AI deflationary stuff, and then we'll move on from there.
Justification of lowering rates if you believe the power of AI. If you see the deflationary impact of China with $1 trillion trade surplus, these are all very deflationary trends, and the AI is deflationary. And so it may not show up as much in 2026, but out 27, you could see real impact on that. And
that's what Elon has said as well, especially around robotics. Do you think OpenAI is working with Tesla for robotics? I think there's no chance in hell that Elon would work with Sam Altman on anything again. So no, they're going to have to find a different robotics company to work with, because it's not going to be Tesla. That's probably not happening. Tesla right there, 443. S&P highs of day, 695 almost. TSM still up 7%. You're seeing the broader market not necessarily slow down, even with Bitcoin moving higher. IBKR is moving today. IBKR, wow, why is IBKR up 5%? Usually a Robinhood or something would be moving with that. That's interesting. I'm trying to see what the reason is for that. IBKR is the only broker that's moving. Interactive brokers can now fund their brokerage accounts using stablecoin. Okay, that's your headline. That is your headline. I don't know why other brokerages can't do that either. And maybe that could be a catalyst for them, but stablecoin payment funding for brokerages, that's what's getting IBR move. Robinhood continues to go down, 3.2%. SoFi, a little bit of a breakout. Maybe we're SoFi 27.50, 40-cent breakout. And this one's been stuck around this range, and then it falls back below 27 every day. So got to see if it can hold there. TSM still 348, Apple at 260. And then Adobe actually flips green after going red. Trump asks Congress to enact his healthcare plan. Okay, his healthcare plan is not that helpful to the Oscar Bowls in regards to ACA subsidies. So I'm not sure if Congress is necessarily going to be on board with this. Definitely not the Democrats. The healthcare subsidies still haven't passed the Senate either, even though it passed the House. So that's going to be another issue. Yeah, here's a statement from the Trump administration right now to pass, urging Congress to pass his healthcare plan. Made my fiance buy VOO. She's down $9 overall and is mad. I mean, welcome to the party. Got a lot of angry people on a bunch of different stocks today. That's down a little bit more than $9, or percentage-wise, more than $9. Grab's about to lose 440, dude. I mean, the next support's 420. After that, it's 380. So, yeah, I don't think this is a buy the dip right here. As bullish as I am, it needs to show a clean reversal. If you're buying it at 450 versus 440, I still think that's better if you have if you have confirmation that it's going up. They're just like Meta, yes, like Meta 630. I thought about it, but I'm like, no, this is, look, I'm not the biggest expert on TA, but this is obviously a falling knife. Like, I learned a little bit from Jason to be like, hold on, your entry here is just looking stupid coming in at 630. Let it breathe a little bit. I think same thing with Grab. It is funny though, right? That VOO, which is like the total stock market index, could fall and then people get upset. Because like for the average investor, they're just like, dude, I don't care. Like, I don't care why it's down, how it's down. All I know is I'm down on my money. And that obviously hurts everybody. Should have waited until after the wedding. Oh my gosh. Siege, thanks for the super chat. Brocrates, does thou even know thyself, like gains or no gains? This is very good stock market poetry. I like this new side of you, Siege. I like it. Thank you for the super chat, man. I'm gonna have to implement this now as well. Yeah, VOO is basically S&P 500. Bitcoin 96.3, Micron 343, Intel 4860, and then Marvell right here down 1.4%. Tell her to buy the dip. Dude. No, that's legit. That is the best advice, bro. Like oh, my stock's there. Stop being a pussy and buy the dip. Like, that's what we got to teach people as they grow up. Buy the freaking dip. That's it. You upset? Whatever. Welcome to the real world. Oh, things aren't going your way. Your little stock's not going up. You thought it was going to make you a millionaire. Guess what? Buy the freaking dip. And if you don't want to buy the dip, then sell and get the hell out. That really is the mentality. That's what that. Now, I wouldn't say it like that to your fiance, because then you might not have a fiance. You got to be very respectful about it. But that's what it is. Yeah, the third album is very bumpy and experimental. I mean, look. This is the nature of also being a public figure and picking a name and recommending it and dealing with it. I mean, I went through this with Hood and Palantir. It sucked. It was not fun. A lot of you guys weren't there because a lot of you guys found me after Hood and Palantir, but it was not a fun time when that shit wasn't moving either. It's not a fun time now either. It's just exacerbated because now there's a much bigger audience and people are going to blame you for everything. But like, it is what it is. If I got to be the one to take the shots, then I'll take the shots. If there was a fundamental thing that has changed, I would react. This is what I'm saying is this is different than like there have been certain names that people held all the way to the end and everything was eroding and the signs were on the table. There's certain names that are out there. I don't want to name the names because it's very obvious if you've been on YouTube for a while, but there are some names that literally have just gone to zero and no fundamental DD on the planet would save those names because those names just weren't going to work because their fundamentals were bad. But when you have something with $7 billion in cash, growing 25% year over year, profitable, doing $3.5 billion of revenue, and that's when the stock is not cooperating. Like, I'll sit with that and I'll take the shots if I have to, but I'm not taking the shots on a penny stock. I'm taking the shots on a stock that's just not working right now, which is part of life. And it is what it is. Yes, a bunch of you guys got it in the chat. I don't want to say it, but if you've been on YouTube long enough, there are some names that have just, literally from $20 to $0. Yeah, people still advocating for them. And it's because there was no thesis on those names. Those names were obviously penny stock pump and dumps. That's not what's going on here with Grab. But the stock price is not reaction. So I get it. It's annoying. But I can't do anything. I mean, I don't know what people want me to do. There's not much more I can do other than analyze it. And that's it. That's really it. But the only lesson from this is that shit takes time. Like AMD took some time before you had a nice Lisa Su partnership with OpenAI. Rocket Lab took 3 years before you finally got some launches that made the street more bullish. Google took freaking 8 months before this stuff. It's okay to take time, but if you don't want to wait, then you get out. Like with HIMS right now. I mean, if I was still stuck in HIMS, look, here's my thing. If I was stuck in HIMS, I would not be texting Nate every day saying, Nate, I hate you. You got me into HIMS. No, I would take my loss and get out because I don't believe in HIMS anymore. Like, I'm just not a fan of it. And that's it. It's over. But I'm not going to blow up his line every day and be like, bro, why'd you get, I hate you. So it's like, no, I'm done. I move on. I'm a big boy. Thankfully, I got it at 58. But if I was still holding this thing, yeah, I'm not bag holding this because I just don't believe in it anymore. But if you believe in it and nothing's changed, and with HIMS, I think there are some fundamental things that have changed with Novo and Vegovia, all this stuff. Well, the Grab, I don't think anything's changed other than the price action. And that's why I'm holding it. That's it. Nate catching strays. He gave us Zeta and Nebius, though. So he's fine. Davis picks on him more than I do in our group chat. Because Davis is sitting on an actual HIMS bag. He's sitting on a really nice Palantir bag, which is how we met each other. But he's also sitting on a little bit of an ugly of a HIMS bag right now. And so he has to deal with it. What else do we have? S&P still flat. I remember Finance Junkies was going to let him talk Palantir because it was so risky. Dude, I remember those days when that shit was stuck at $6 to $7 and I would want to bring it up. Chris, Vitali, and Carlos were like, dude, we're not talking about this stupid, evil spy company anymore. I would literally have to like sneak it into the conversation on that podcast. Because, and for good reason, dude, they were annoyed as well. They were like, dude, the stock is stuck. It's not moving. You sound like an idiot yelling about this name. Like we're talking about something else. And I get it. I don't blame them for that. I'm like, yeah, like it was dead stock. And you have other people that just aren't. I'm not trying to bring it up every day when it comes to Grab. But you guys in the comments are bringing it up. So like, all right, I have to talk about it. But there's not much to bring up other than I'm holding as SoFi falls below 27. Why not? And I don't want to bore people talking about it because a lot of people probably don't care. But if you do care, okay, that's it. You hold or you buy more, you sell out. That's it. Like there's just, but complaining all day, it's like, that's just not, it's not how it's going to work. Dude, every day I got the evil spy comments from Carlos, even though he bought a little bit at $9. I think he bought like 100 shares at $9. I think he still held it, but he was so against it. Are you streaming BM&R? I'm probably not, but Tanner probably will be. So he'll make sure you do it. Yeah, I agree with Eric. Wait for it to rebound on high volume, then wait again for another follow through on a day with high volume, 3 to 4 days later, then start to get back in. You don't have to get the bottom. 1000%. And that applies to any stock that's in a falling knife category. Same thing with Meta. So no, I wouldn't buy this dip here. I would do exactly what Eric is saying. Wait for a day of high volume on a rebound, and then wait. And if it doesn't rebound on high volume, then it's going to go down even further, and then you have a better entry price. But if you have to pay more than the price you're paying right now just to potentially get the bottom, like you're risking more of a falling knife, which is exactly the same thing that's happened on Meta over the past couple of days. And I'd rather wait than not, especially if you already have a heavy position. Now, if you don't have a position, you want to get in, then sure. But if you're already in, then timing really does matter here. They're our evil spy company, though. Yes. I told you guys when I lost my laptop in Vegas, or I left it in my bag, and the security found it in the hotel, it has 2 big ass Palantir stickers on it. And I'm like, oh boy, these guys are going to see these stickers and think this computer is trying to like spy on everybody or some shit. It's like not a good day to have, because the average person has heard of Palantir, and the average person's perception of Palantir, let's just say it's not as friendly as some other people may think. So I was like, all right, have to see how that plays out. 349 on TSM. S&P is still holding 695. It's not really getting hit. Zeta just below 2250. Kind of flatlining now for the day. Imagine that's what happened. It'd have been a cool story. I don't know how cool it would have been if they really started questioning me. Will there be a thesis video on Zeta? Thoughts on buying price? I did a Substack on it. I will link it. I have not done a full video. I like $20 as a price to buy in, but I also think $22.50 is not expensive. And again, if you read through the valuation part of the Substack, I think it'll make sense why this price is not expensive. But thesis is beat and raise profitability. If they even get to 1.8 billion of revenue, you increase the sales multiple by a little bit. You're looking at a $35, $37 price. It's just a cheap name. Just a very cheap name. So that's why I like it. Oscar. Oh, Oscar again. I guess that's from that Trump healthcare news. I don't know if that's bullish for subsidies, but that headline we just talked about is probably why it's getting up. Yes, Vitalik and Sam Altman will be at the OpenAI, not OpenAI, the BM&R conference. Thoughts on Symbiotic for a robot play? I don't like the multiple on this thing. Like, I don't hate the multiple, but I don't love it. I've never done a ton of fundamental due diligence on it. Up 3.2%. Yeah, I know they have a deal with Walmart, which got them a lot of excitement last year. It's up 8% year to date. Wow, the stock's up 162% over the past year. Yeah, maybe it's worth a dive. I mean, they took a mean dip around November and then again in December, but they've tried to recover a little bit from these levels. Bloom Energy, that's up 5%. Does Carlos still hold Enphase? I don't know. I'm sure they've sold some of it, but Bloom Energy back to 140. I think they've had Enphase for a long time, so I don't think they've necessarily sold it. Yes, you can sell covered calls on a stock if you're holding bags. Now, the stock needs to have good premiums. And if it doesn't have great premiums, the problem with selling covered calls on a stock that's down a lot is when it rebounds, if it rebounds, it can be very aggressive. And then you get your shares called away for no reason. So that's the only fear right there. Did you play the video on why Tom Lee invested in Mr. Beast? Yeah, in the beginning of the show. I mean, his argument is just Mr. Beast is a big creator, and as a result of him being a big creator, there is a lot of opportunity to work with him, which I think is fair. I don't know if people love that, but that's fair. I'm in covered call jail with Rocket Lab, Oklo, and CoreWeave this week. Dude, Rocket Lab has destroyed everyone's covered calls. Absolutely demolished. Dude, this thing got up to $90. People like covered calls at 75, 80, 90. Intel flipped green again. Marvell back up 1.82. S&P pushing 695. What other headlines do we have? We talked about most of them. Cerebras is raising $1 billion before their IPO. That's going to be a big thing for NVIDIA. Denmark's defense minister said on Thursday that the intention was to have more Danish troops based in Greenland with other NATO allies invited to take part on a rotational basis. Okay, so they're ramping up military around the region. And then you got the S&P holding up right there. Is there a bonus when transferring money into Robinhood banking? Got money in Wealthfront yield account? Anyone know? I don't think they have a bonus on bank. You know, you can message their support, and sometimes they like have these like specific offers, but for banking itself, they're giving you 3.5% APY on your checkings if you set up direct deposit. That's the only promotion I've heard of so far. That is also a tailwind for Robinhood this year, banking. But like, we've got to see some real banking growth, right? These are the things that are independent of the market that I'm really excited for. But like, you know, we got to get millions of users onboarded to banking. And I think right now they have like 100,000. So it's those types of catalysts that the street's going to need to see to be a lot more excited. Well, Meta split. You know, if Zuck splits, I think it might be bearish because he would obviously be trying to pump the stock if he does a nice little 5-to-1 split. But it would also be super bullish because you get so many people finally. Shit, $600 a share is a lot. Like for someone to take out $600 to get a share of it, I know there's not a functional difference if it's split or not, but it is a little easier for the average person to just buy a share at $100. Pulte just tweeted, I had a great day yesterday with the heads of various mortgage and related companies. They described our meetings as a home run. I appreciate the industry realizing we are pro-business, pro-competition, and focused on growing their businesses. Thank you to all that you do. The home builder stocks have been doing good this year. Builder, BLDR, that's up 2.8% today. Open Door is red, but it was green last week on the Fannie and Freddie announcement. SoFi still below 27, Tesla 443. Lennar's also had a pretty good year, up 20%. So the home builders are liking what they're saying. Oh, did we break 695? Yeah, we did. We did. Resolve AI, that one moving as well. That's up 16%. This is also, once again, you guessed it, small cap, 1.5 billion. This really has been the story of January. It's been the smaller names that have had either a catalyst or a narrative that flipped them higher. I've been waiting on the wait list for a card for a century with Robinhood. You know, maybe you've got to be a nice person. Maybe you're just not nice enough. Maybe Robinhood monitors how nice of a person you are. That's how they give out the card. Or maybe you have to show up to their investor day and like put your name in a Google Doc so that they get. That's the only reason I got the card, bro. If I wasn't at that investor day, I probably wouldn't have it either. No, they're doing it geographically. So like, I mean, at least that's what they've been doing for the past couple of years. But it has been a long time. I mean, it's been almost 2 years, and I think they have 400,000 card holders. There's a lot of people. There's like 4 million on the wait list. But also, they have to be strategic because like they can't give it to everyone who's going to pay off their balance every month, because then who's going to pay for the reward? So they have to find people that are going to carry a balance, which is the nature of the credit card business. Which is why my freaking credit limit of $5,000, I'm just like, I think they know that Amit's going to pay it off every month, so we don't want to give him too much. But it's also like, dude, 5,000 is crazy. So if your credit's really good, I mean, that could be a deterrent from you getting the card simply because they also need people who are still building their credit. They gave you a $1,000 limit. Yeah, dude. See, this is a little stupid. Bro, you have too much in ASTS and Google for them to be giving you a $1,000 limit. That is wild. There's $1,000 of credit. Absolutely wild. Like, that's crazy, right, bro? But see, this is the predatory nature of the credit card business. Like, they need someone who's gonna have a balance that's gonna get you your 3%. And it's like, that's how credit cards work. And if Trump changes that, which, by the way, you know, Warren is working with Trump to potentially change that core rate right there up 10.2%. That's definitely going to change the entire part of the industry. All right, what else we got? What else do we got? It's 11:30. I mean, I think we're done. We'll be back on the close. Unless we have any other headlines. Flattish to red day on certain names. The index is up. So the overall market is doing okay. I mean, it is a nice little rebound from yesterday, which was, again, red in certain sectors. And now you're seeing not a second day continuing of red. I mean, in 2025, until November, we did not have 2 red days in a row, excluding the liberation stuff. So call it for about 6 months, we did not have 2 red days in a row. I mean, so far this year, we have the same, not had 2 red days in a row. Trump proposed cost-sharing program could reduce the most common Obamacare plan premiums by over 10%. Okay, is that why Oscar is getting a little bit of a move? Oscar, yeah, 5% on Oscar. That's if that gets approved, which is also going to have to go through Congress. We have the Netflix headline, and then I'll pull up the healthcare stuff, but here's the Paramount Netflix stuff.
About its merger deal, especially how much it values the linear global networks business. But just this morning, the judge denied Paramount's request, saying Paramount has not proven it would suffer irreparable harm from omissions of information. The judge also denying Paramount's request to expedite the proceeding ahead of next Wednesday, which is the deadline for Warner Brothers Discovery shareholders to accept Paramount's tender offer, though Paramount can extend that deadline. Warner Brothers Discovery saying, quote, Paramount Skydance continues to propose a transaction our board unanimously concluded is not superior to the merger agreement with Netflix. Paramount also weighing in, saying, quote, Paramount continues to urge Warner Brothers Discovery to make these disclosures so that WBD shareholders can make an informed decision. Back over to you.
Net though, Julia.
All right, here's Trump on the healthcare thing. He just put out a brand new video.
I'm thrilled to announce my plan to lower healthcare prices for all Americans and truly make healthcare affordable again. We're doing things that nobody's ever been able to do. We're calling it the Great Healthcare Plan. Instead of putting the needs of big corporations and special interests first, our plan finally puts you first and puts more money in your pocket. The government is going to pay the money directly to you. It goes to you, and then you take the money and buy your own health care. Nobody's ever heard of that before, and that's the way it is. The big insurance companies lose, and the people of our country win. This proposal locks in the massive discounts on prescription drugs that my administration is achieving through our most favored nation drug pricing agreement. Now, when you hear about that, for 40 years they've been trying to do it, but they're never able.
I sped it up because it's a 5-minute video, so it's on 1.25.
To do it. No other president was able to do it. I got every other country to approve it by the use of tariffs and other things. They all approved it. Nobody else got it. No other president got it. And for the most part, they didn't even try because they felt it was impossible. It'll bring down drug prices 80, 90%, in some cases, just numbers that nobody's ever heard of before. Your prescription drugs will come way, way down. And under this policy, the prices of many drugs will be slashed by 300, 400, and even 500% starting this month at the TrumpRx.gov. So instead of
Bro, it's so much slower. Do you want me to keep it at 1? It feels like he's talking 2 words a minute at this point.
Americans paying the highest drug prices in the world, which we have for decades, we will now be paying the lowest cost paid by any other nation. So any other nation that's paying the lowest cost, that's what we're going to pay. And the American people will get the savings. So I have to reiterate, the lowest price in the world is what you're going to pay. Before, you were paying the highest price in the world by far, and the politicians did nothing about it. So I'm asking Congress to complete the work that we've started. Next, my plan would reduce your insurance premiums by stopping government payoffs to big insurance companies and sending that money directly to the people. Obamacare was designed to make insurance companies rich. I call it the Unaffordable Care Act, with billions of dollars in taxpayer subsidies that helped their stock prices skyrocket over 1,700%. As you paid more money for healthcare every single year, more and more, the premiums went higher and higher. I want to end this flagrant scam and put extra money straight into the healthcare savings account in your name, and you go out and buy your own healthcare, and you'll make a great deal. You get better healthcare for less money. That way you can choose the care that is right for your family. To further reduce insurance premiums, my plan ends the giant kickbacks to insurance brokers and corporate middlemen that only drive up the costs, and that's what they're intended to do, drive up the cost. But we're driving down the costs. And it fully funds a long neglected part of the law known as the Cost Sharing Reduction Program. This measure alone should cut premiums on the most popular Obamacare plans. It's hard to believe there are any because it's a hated program. It's unaffordable, but it's going to cut them by an average of 10 to 15%. Next, the Great Healthcare Plan. That's the name. It's called the Great Healthcare because it's great healthcare at a lower price. Mandates unprecedented.
Okay, so that's the name. The Great Healthcare Plan is the name of the new proposal.
Accountability and transparency from insurance companies and all healthcare providers so that special interests can no longer profiteer at your expense. As the saying goes, sunlight is the best disinfectant. That is why my plan orders all insurance companies to publish rate and coverage comparisons in very plain English. It requires insurers to publish detailed information about how much of your money they're going to be paying out in claims versus how much they're taking in profits. In other words, you will be able to watch the scam. It forces them to release detailed data on how many claims are being denied and whether those denials are eventually overturned on appeal. And most importantly, it will require any hospital or insurer who accepts Medicare or Medicaid to prominently post all prices at their place of business so that you are never surprised and you can easily shop for a better deal or better care. And you're going to end up doing both. You're going to get a...
All right. That was Trump on the Great Healthcare Plan. See, the issue with this is he tried this in 2017 with the repeal and replace, and it didn't work. I don't know if this is going to be enough to get everyone on board, especially when it's probably going to be perceived as an extension of the private system. The Democrats do not want more privatization. The other thing is like, how much is this? How much is he going for when it comes to this? Because like, is this his major policy push of 2026? Is it healthcare? Because it's not easy to get healthcare, dude. It took Obama 2.5 years, and that was the single biggest piece of legislation he got done in 8 years, 2 terms of being president. Like, he used up pretty much all of his political capital on the ACA. Whatever Trump just said in that video feels like a reversal of a lot of those core premises from the ACA. And I don't know how easily you get that approved. So, yeah, I mean, this is a proposal. Does this actually get put into implementation? Does it get a vote from Congress and get a majority? I'm not sure. UNH right there at 336. The healthcare stock's moving a little bit on this, but not a massive move. Siege, thanks for the super chat. If you gaze long enough into the candlesticks also gaze into you. You know, that is that is exactly how I feel every day. At some point, the longer you gaze into the candlesticks, isn't that a quote about the abyss? You stare into the abyss stares at you. Who has that quote? Is that Camus? I think that Albert Camus. It's deep. Insurance is a scam. I think he needs to fix it. That would be huge. There are definitely issues with insurance in this country. And a lot of my Europeans that are watching probably have a totally different perspective because we have universal socialized healthcare. In America, I mean, dude, there's a lot of negative things you could say about healthcare and insurance in the overall system. Now, the pushback people say is the quality of care is better. Again, that's debatable. You go back and forth. But a revamping of the entire system, I think he used up most of his political capital on the one big beautiful bill, which had really nothing to do with healthcare. You only have 4 years, realistically 2 years. The other 2 years, you kind of can't do anything. So that's why every administration in the first year tries to get one major policy out. For Biden, it was the Inflation Reduction Act. And for Trump, it was Big Beautiful Bill. In 2017, it was the Tax Cut and Jobs Act. I don't know if he has another big bill in him. He definitely doesn't if he doesn't win the House and the Senate, which is why the midterms are going to be really important. Oh, it was Nietzsche. It was Nietzsche. The Genealogy of Morals. That's what it's called, right? Genealogy of Morals. I read it in high school on the genealogy of morality. Very, very important text for those that are questioning the nature of existence. Yeah, I don't know if he gets healthcare passed, man. That's a tough one. We're going to have to see. We are going to have to see. All right, I think that's pretty much it. I think we're done for the day. Green day across the board, except on certain names. NVIDIA, AMD, great day. CoreWeave is up 10%. That's a phenomenal day. Time will tell how a lot of these names play out, but the high beta names are still getting momentum. Meta right there, 622. Hoodie down 3%. Obviously, Grab, not a fun day. That's down 4%. I would really wait for some volume to come in for Grab before easily buying the dip, especially if you have a large position. If you don't have a position, then DCing at these prices, I don't think is crazy. SMCI right here, that's down. S&P 694. Oscar's up a little bit on this healthcare stuff. PayPal, once again, is red. APLD down 2%. Ondas down 4%. Kratos up a little bit. The banks crushed it this morning. Some of their stocks are up, some of them are not, but overall good earnings. And then where's Palantir? I think we've been stuck at 178, 179 for Palantir. All right, word of the day. Let's do word of the day, and then we will get out of here. I'll be back on the close. Again, I'm probably not streaming this Bitmine thing, but Tanner will be. So we'll definitely talk about it on the close. I think we'll be done by then. So we can discuss what they said. Yeah, Jose is live, right? Okay, so I'll put Jose's thing in the chat. Yeah, Jose is live right now. So if anyone wants to ask him some more semiconductor questions, please make sure to go over his stream. And you can check them out as well. IBKR is up because of stablecoin payments that they have officially integrated into the platform for funding. So that's why that is up 5.5%. Okay, word of the day is parsimony. Extreme simplicity and economy of explanation or action, using only what's necessary. In trading, parsimony wins. Simple rules executed consistently beats complicated systems you can't follow. Okay, let's see if I'm saying this correctly. How to pronounce parsimony.
Parsimony.
I'm not gonna apologize for that one. I don't deserve this, to be honest. I'm a good person. I pay my taxes. I give back to society. I don't deserve this shit, dude. This is not what I sign up for.
Parsimony.
It looked like parsimony. It looked like parsimony. Parsimony. Extreme simplicity. All right. So if you ever want to sound smart and you're trying to keep things simple, parsimony is what you have to say. That is our word of the day. There you go. All right. I'll be back on the close. Thank you, everybody, for being here. We'll see what happens with Bitmine. What was your SAT verbal score? I don't even remember. Probably wasn't good though. For once, I'm with you on this pronunciation. Okay, cool. I have someone on my side. But we'll be back on the close. Yeah, we'll talk about the Bitmine thing, and then I don't think we have any earnings today. We have the biggest earnings in the morning with TSMC. So yeah, we'll discuss Bitmine, and then we'll see kind of how the market plays out towards the end of the day. All right, thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. I'll see you guys on the market close. Bye, everybody. Have a good one.